Today's episode is brought to you by elitefts.com. Founded in 1998 with the primary aim to live, learn, and pass on. Please help Elite FTS support this mission by smashing the like button, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend, and thinking of us for your training needs. If you can put it in a gym bag or load weights on it, Elite FTS has it.
What's going on? I'm Dave Tate. We are broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. What's going on, guys? We are back with another episode of Table Talk. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Merrick Health. Merrick Health is a premium telehealth platform specializing in hormone optimization and preventive medicine. They have two different offers, service offers, whatever you want to call it. They have the self-service and the guided optimization. The self-service, you can go to merrickhealth.com/table talk, and you can see the panel that they help set up for us, which basically covers everything that you're going to want, from the hormones to the vitamins and cholesterol, IGF, vitamin D, ferritin, cortisol, T3, T4, DHA, DHEA, lipids, and all the other shit. With that, you can get a report that will tell you where you're on, where you're off, what needs to be done. The other service is the guided optimization, where you'll be assigned a patient care coordinator that will walk you through the entire process, is what I actually suggest, because the patient care coordinator will act as an in-between between you and the doctor that can help you with the prescriptions or the supplementation that you may need to be able to get better, or to help you get better, even if it's just nootropics or erectile dysfunction or the hormones, whatever it is, they do all of it, merrickhealth.com. Elite FTS is also one of the sponsors. Obviously, we have a clearance sale going on right now. Head over to elitefts.com. Pretty much the whole site's on sale. My guests today are Wendler Matt Rhodes. This, I believe, is the sixth time that we've sat down, to talk about basically absolutely nothing. We do have some questions and some topics here, but I didn't really do a big push for the questions to the topics, because when we do this in the past,
you don't do them anyway.
We don't answer any of them.
Yep.
So we'll just start with what we were talking about earlier. Jim made an observation that the pause deadlifts are, a trending thing right now. So what do y'all think about the pause deadlift?
You guys just explained to me what it was. I thought a
You didn't
deadlift
even
was
know.
from a pause. You pull it from the floor. So,
Yeah.
But
Well, we were joking that everyone likes the pause squat and the pause deadlift, but no one wants to pause their bench.
Yeah.
Because you're handling less weight on the bench.
Yeah.
And that's the only lift that you need to pause.
That you actually pause on,
Yeah.
which is funnier than hell when you think about it. At least I laughed about it. It would have been funnier had it been live
Yes.
when we were talking about that, because it was fucking funny, because it's true. You don't pause the deadlift.
Well, I have.
Right before you miss.
yeah.
It's a hell of an isometrics.
Yeah.
Right after the pause, you reach for your hamstring
Yeah.
or your back.
Yeah.
If isometrics worked, I would have been the king of the deadlift.
Look at your hand.
So you changed positions.
Yeah,
I did.
This is big.
Yeah. So you went from the college
Yes.
realm to high school.
High school, yeah.
I got to hear what this transition has been like.
So on the simplest level, I'm doing the same job I did in college at the high school level on a teacher's schedule. So I have the kids can sign up for a strength and conditioning class as one of their daily classes, like throughout their school day.
Yeah.
So I get to do the same thing, essentially, but I'm done at when do we get out? Like 3:25 or something like that. I don't answer to coaches. I don't answer to anybody pretty much on a day-to-day basis except myself, which is awesome.
How many of the kids actually train though?
There's probably, I think I have like 118 students in all my different classes.
Yeah.
And I want to say probably 100 of them are athletes. Some are, NARPs, non-athletic, regular people. But there's probably about 100 student athletes that train. And so, and it's, but like, so for instance, I have 3 really big classes. So I'm going to have football players, basketball players, volleyball players, baseball, softball, whatever sport. And obviously it's high school, so the kids cross over and stuff. So like one workout, half the kids are in season, half the kids are off season. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you can only run one workout.
Yeah.
So the logistics of it is, Jim and I were talking about this. The biggest thing is teaching them how to train properly. So the workout doesn't really matter first semester.
How long
It
is
matters
each
a little
class?
bit. I have 35 minutes. We give them an extra 5-minute grace period at the beginning of class to
does it-
change.
Yeah. Okay. So the changing.
And then we give them an extra 10 at the end to clean up and go back to class in most cases. So I have a 35-minute window, start to finish, to get it done. So
I guess
normally I had an hour. With the
Yeah.
college kids, I had an hour.
I think what Rhodes and I were talking about yesterday, it's at that when you're training a big group, the most important thing is the logistics and getting everyone on the same page. It's not so much the workout. Not saying the workout's not important, obviously, but being able to manage your time, getting the kids efficiently in and out,
Yeah.
all that other stuff is what you never hear really discussed. And I've said this a million times. We talked about how important communication is to being a coach, and that's never really talked about.
Yeah.
But if you can't communicate with your athletes or even the administration, it doesn't matter how good you are, nothing's going to get done. But it's just like I'm never been in where at the level that Rhodes has been. I work with in-season stuff, but it's only football. But trying to get 5 things done in this tiny window, and it's not like a soft 40-minute window.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
we got to go. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
this
yeah.
is when.
Because teachers hate coaches.
Well, yeah. I mean,
So if the kids are showing up late to their class,
well,
or
I don't
my
want to
class-
put those kids in that situation. The point
Right,
being is
right.
it's super important to understand how to get all this stuff done. And I think the other good thing is it helps you as a coach to figure out what is important, and you really start to shave off the little bullshit stuff. That maybe you finish your main workout and then you spend 20 minutes doing a whole bunch of crap that you could have, didn't really need to do. But the point being is it's kind of a lost art that I don't think people really talk about, and something that people have been dealing with for 50 years of doing this.
Yeah.
And it's never really talked about on social media and stuff like that. So
Well, it's interesting how it's changed because when I was in high school, I was the stupid kid that the coaches wanted to get by, right? So
Yes.
let's just put it that way. And so they had a weight training class. My whole junior and senior year, I either had study hall or weight training for every class before lunch. And I didn't train there because I trained someplace else. But what I did do is I did what you do. I ran the class, but I didn't. I just sat there and just had like the check off sheet and would check
Yes.
in the attendance.
Yes.
The coaches were over at McDonald's drinking coffee. Swear to God. Right. So I just sat there and did jack shit for 2 hours, until I actually had to go to class. But I had to be there. But nobody changed. Like one person would actually work out. And that was, I'd be like, what are you doing, dude? Like everybody else is just sitting there on the benches and shit.
they're in the Todd Brock workout.
Exactly. And
Wearing jeans and a flannel.
Yeah, like I give a fuck, right? I'm just sitting there, because I don't want to go to class. I don't want to do anything. And but at that time, I was wondering, like, how would you do this? Because none of these kids want to do shit, right? They don't want to do anything. And we're now, it's actually somebody that's coordinating the program instead of 2 coaches that want to just go and drink coffee at McDonald's for 2 hours.
I think the important thing that Rhodes pointed out is 1, the kids have to sign up, and 2, he's got veto power to kick kids out that don't want to do anything.
Yeah, like the
So
administration is like, it's insane how they want this to work.
Yeah.
Apparently it's my understanding that the way we're doing it is we're the only school in Arkansas doing this. So it's like, great, there's a whole bunch of people looking at me, obviously. And there's some administrators that want some flex their, this is my idea. I get it, right? But I couldn't care less. I just want to make sure the kids get what they want so they can win some more games. They can walk a little taller in the hallway, feel a little bit better about themselves. big picture, like pass it on to their kids when they're, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but
it's
how
way
big is the
more than-
discrepancy though between those kids and just the regular ones that it's an easy credit?
It's noticeable. I mean, you can tell the kids that take athletics seriously. And one of the big things that I'm trying to do is explain to them that this isn't weightlifting class second period or whatever. This is part of practice. Would you go to practice and sit down and lay on the ground before practice?
So they're all athletes. They're not just
For the most part, yeah.
Okay,
There's a few here and there. But
Yeah.
I'm like, do you do this at practice? No. Well, why the?
okay.
I can't curse in the high school. Why are you
you
doing it
can.
here? Like, why do you think that's okay? They just don't understand yet.
Now, does high school have the time, the amount of time you can work with the athlete?
No, that's
They do have some dead periods here and there, but generally speaking, no. There's
But it's not like
really.
college.
no. It's ironic that the higher you go up,
The more limitations.
the more limitations
Yeah.
you have.
Now you get some limitations because, like,
Not what Dave's saying. They don't
no,
have.
it's
There's
not
some
yeah.
regulatory board.
Yeah,
isn't-
it's called CARA, Accountable Athletic Related Activities. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a 5-hour practice in high school,
like I remember.
you can, but the parents will get pissed about it.
Yeah.
You know, but
Well, the NFL, if you're an NFL strength coach, there's periods where you can be in the weight room, but you can't coach.
yeah, you're
just
a gym
there as
manager.
yeah, just in like so if he needs a spot, but you can't. That's part you can't. I don't give them guidance
Yeah.
or whatever. So, and that's it's part of the union, and that's what they wanted. But I have found that the lower you go, the less regulations you have. But that doesn't give you license to go crazy because no one's going to show up. So,
So
it
you're-
regulates
yeah.
itself, Dave.
Yeah. So if you're an
Imagine that,
athlete-
Dave.
Yeah, imagine that. Oh, shit. So if you're an athlete, this is actually cool, right? Because you don't have to do this shit before school or after school
Right.
like most
Yeah.
of them
So
have to
what
do.
we're doing, the way it worked is the coaches would. So if you had practice, the coach had to cut practice a little bit short, and then lift the kids on the days that they wanted to. So the coach had to do a second job of strength and conditioning. So there's still a few kids because of scheduling and it's brand new that's what has to happen. And some of the coaches are doing a good job with it. And they're like, well, no, you like all your teammates are going home. You have to stay later because you have to get this in. And some coaches suck about it. They're saying they're doing it, but they're not.
Yeah.
But so like you're trying to let the kids know, like it can be really, really simple for you, or you can make it really, really hard on your coach. And so, but it's an awesome opportunity for the kids. It's like right in your day, you can get your training taken care of, go to practice and go about your life without any extra.
But the difference though still is they're now 4 years prior to when you would normally see them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You know, so they don't have just they all suck when they got you anyhow, right? But at least they had conditioning from practicing.
Yes.
yes.
They
And
pushed,
then the other
they pushed
thing,
a few sleds.
Yeah.
and then the other thing too, like with the college kids, is they, for the most part, like they all wanted to be there. They chose to accept the scholarship and they chose to
Yeah.
be there. Like some of these kids, like mom and dad are making sure that they're playing basketball because like the kid won't be social. The kid doesn't really want to be there, but you know what I mean? So there's some of those situations where that's a new thing for me. And that kid matters just as much
Yeah.
in a different way, but it's like, it's a whole nother, like, why aren't you taking this seriously? It's like, well, you come to find out, mom is making sure that the kid's being social and getting a little bit of activity. And it's like, okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Got to talk to this kid very differently. Still, they still need to do things correctly and all that, but it's like, there's a different approach as opposed to the kid that is like, I want to go play in college. I want to do this. I want to do
So
that.
do you pair that kid with somebody that's more serious, or you pair them with people that think the same as they do?
That part I haven't figured out yet.
Okay.
What I've done is I've kind of let the kids
I'll raise my hand
Yeah.
on this one.
in the bigger classes kind of choose, and like all the basketball girls like to work out together and the football guys like to work out together. And so they kind of pair themselves, and I've thought about what to do with that. I haven't gotten to that point yet.
So for years, and for the most part, we let the kids train in the groups, whatever they want, because they'll generally graduate or towards their friends or someone they feel comfortable with. And only one time did we have a senior class that said, no, like two of the hardcore seniors get another young kid to show them the ropes, or so they're not screwing around, ruining everything. But this is always the thing: is do you bring up the weaker kids and hold back the, the better kids? And this year I did a little different approach because I usually have to tone stuff down. And this year I'm like, listen, man, you got to get on board to the kids who are maybe a little more out of shape, and give those kids who are a little bit higher, who want to work a little bit harder, like this is tailored for you now, because I hate to say this, but you guys got yourself out of shape. You guys had all this time, and I give these kids like homework, like, listen, if you don't feel like you're good enough at this and this, then on the days we're not here, go out and do this. And you can tell within 2 to 3 weeks who's doing that. And so I think this year I've really just kind of said, listen, you got to get on this train's moving. And it's not like the kids I'm tailoring this to are like Michael Jordan or LeBron James. They're just a little bit higher, a little bit older. But the younger kids, it seems like the ones that maybe not be physically great, but they have that great attitude, just fuck it, let's go, and they've excelled. So I think in general, it's been my experience that the higher the standards you have, most kids will reach
100%.
it.
And they want that.
They want those high. And I think it's served us a little bit better this year so far. We'll see how it pans out. But the problem with, if it's you, me, and then some kid who doesn't want to train, there's always that bad apple ruins everything.
Well, it's
so
going to pull the rest down.
That kid's never going to do anything anyway. So why am I? I'm not. That sounds really negative, but some kids really pull through some of that stuff. But even then, those kids have a better attitude than
Yes.
Like they're just kind of hiding. But there's some really, occasionally you get some kids. It's like just downer, and most of those kids weed themselves out, especially with a sport that's obviously voluntary, but there's a physical and mental commitment.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just passively wrestle.
No.
You can passively play baseball or basketball and just be part of something, but the more physical, demanding sports kind of weed themselves out. And I love those kids that come in that are just trying something new, and I love those kids like that don't care if they look stupid. Because
they're willing to try.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you're fine. If you're giving effort, man, let's go ahead and get this done together.
Yep. That's one of the things that I say a lot to the kids, especially the ones that, like, we do rolls and cartwheels and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm not getting you ready for the circus. It's okay if you're not a gymnast, but just try it. Like, try and suck. And that's awesome, because you'll get better if you just try. But a lot of kids won't even try. It's like you're not even allowing yourself to fail and learn. You're not even trying. It's like that's something I can't do a somersault. Well, lay on the ground and learn how to fall down. Eventually, you just got to do it. Yeah. And magically, the kids that do that, all of a sudden they're walking on their hands, or they're trying to do like handstand push-ups. It's like that's magically you work.
Have you guys got the muscle ups? As the kids love doing muscle ups.
There's a few kids that love it, and
like not during the training, but during before. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Is who can do a muscle?
I'm trying to get them. So we don't have dip handles, but the way our safety catches are on the rack, if you put 2 bars in the rack, you can do it, and it's good. But there is setup to it. And I'm trying to get them to be like push-ups or dips, right, guys? Like dips are awesome, and so I may just have to be like, listen, you, and you're doing dips. Don't care if you don't want to. You guys are doing push-ups because you're working on them. But I know you can do sets of 20 push-ups, and I'm good with them. Yeah. So now we're doing, little stuff like that. I'm off on a tangent there a little bit, but.
That's all right, because when you're dealing with those kids, you're now at a level where body weight movements are hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like I kind of, I gotta watch how I say this. How come the 7th graders aren't using the bar? Well, because they suck. Like, I'm not being rude. Like, they suck. They can't even squat to the right depth. They're so weak that they can't do a push-up and keep their body in a plank. And you want to put a bar in their back and squat them? Are you fucking insane? They can't do a pull-up, let alone, a fat man row or an inverted row. That's what they're called, right? let alone do a pull-up, and you want to put a bar on their back? Like, what are we thinking here? And so I have like I got this from La Sierra High School. There's a graduate, you got to do all of these things, then you can move to the next. And then you've got to do all of these, not some of them. Like, so let's say you're a really strong kid, but you really suck at doing, say, bear crawls. Like, and you fail the bear crawl test. Well, you don't get to move up to the bar until you pass everything.
I think Juliet has similar things, but
Yeah.
she has one for the squat and the bench press and the deadlift. So you can pass one without passing the other.
For me, I went it that way because I don't get hands on the 7th and 8th grade kids and the 9th grade kids. So, like, for the coaches that run those little groups, the sport coaches, like, they either pass it all and get to move on, or they don't. But oh no, a 7th grade kid does bodyweight squats, push-ups, inverted rows, sit-ups, bear crawls for 2 years. Oh no, like that's going to be so horrible for them. You know what I mean? Like,
that reminded me of
you know?
an observation somebody sent through, that what they said was if you generally look at society and athletes as a whole, they're weaker than they've ever been at the bottom level. And I didn't think about this until this guy wrote this, but if you look at the other end, at the highest level, they're stronger and in better condition than they've ever been in history.
Yep.
But yet that gap is so much bigger.
That's how all of society works itself out. That's why the rich people have more money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how everything kind of evens itself out. And then you have, I mean, over time, look at the NFL, the size of those guys, the speed of those guys. It just naturally gets bigger and bigger. That's just evolution. And I'm not talking about, Darwinism. I'm just saying that's just kind of how it works itself out. And the ends start getting bigger and bigger.
But isn't that the opportunity for the kid that wants to put in the effort and do the work at the bottom level?
Well, I talked about this the other day. I said there's an inverse proportion to how talented you are versus how much effort you have to give on all the big things and the little things, right?
Yeah.
And we said the superstars are the guys with the high
abilities
and
the work ethic.
Do all the work ethic and do
those
all
are the people you see in Hall of Fames for the
Yeah.
most part, right?
Yeah.
You have your freaks that may slip through,
But you're exactly right, and I think this is one reason why we at London do so well on the football field is because we want to make our average guys so much better than your average guy. Yeah. And because that's how you win football games in high school, at least at this level.
Well, and that's how you win having seen the basketball kids and all that. That's how we have a very similar population.
Yeah.
We don't have like
the good thing about football though is we talked about this. It is a sport, the high school football is still a sport where you can bully yourself to a win.
Yes. Yes.
With basketball, you still need tremendous skill. I mean, you can have all the greatest conditioned kids and maybe great tech.
If you can't shoot,
it
doesn't freaking matter. Yeah.
But in football,
baseball too, same thing.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of a unique position for that sport and for training in general. So, but I think majority of people in this country are in that situation. There's a few great high schools who get 2,500 to 3,000 kids, and they get kids recruited, so to speak.
They're still 14 to 18-year-old kids. So how really training special are they?
Yeah.
And physically they may be gifted, but
even if you look at the NFL, you have your superstars, but they're still, in the eyes of the NFL, there's the average guys and those guys that are, doing all the little stuff. So even at that high level, the average guys are still
the majority of your people.
Yeah, the majority.
Well, if the average over time has dropped, all right, follow me. So if the average has dropped over a period of time, then the opportunity for those people who are average that know how to put in effort, so they don't have the genetics and all the other stuff, but they know how to put in effort and actually work hard, has never been greater than it is right now.
You mentioned something prior to the podcast, and I've told this to Mason. I said about the work ethic, and I said, you don't have to go be, who's the great wrestler from Iowa?
Dan Gable.
You don't have to be Dan Gable with a lot of this stuff. You just have to be a little bit more than the other guy.
Yeah.
And as you said earlier, that chasm is so wide now compared to that you can really make a lot of progress doing a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like I always joke, imagine if you did 10 push-ups every day over a year. That's a lot of push-ups,
Yeah.
and 10 push-ups is not asking a lot. But yeah, I think when in high school sports, and even in the skill sports, you can make a much better team by just being a little bit more physically prepared than the other one. Now, it's not going to grant you a state title. Like you got to.
But you're going to win more of those 50-50 games,
Yeah.
and you're going to upset that team that maybe on paper you shouldn't beat if you're just a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher. You can look back on the work you've put in your own mind. If the team thinks this, like, yeah, we deserve to win this, even if maybe they shouldn't. You know,
forget
what I
about
mean?
the team. Think about the kid that learns that skill, right?
Yeah.
Because this is going to transfer to anything.
Everything.
Work anything. Because if the average is lower across the board and continues to get lower across the board, and you take somebody that knows how to work more than average,
They're going to kick ass.
they're going to kick ass. Yeah, it becomes they're still going to have to compete, but they're going to compete at a higher level than they would have when the average was way higher.
Here's like a simple thing: is let's say you played sports in college, and every morning you had to wake up at 4:45 or 5 to go to practice or lift or something. Even if you kept that habit, you would be so much better off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not even just saying, listen, I'm going to apply like the Under the Bar book, all those lessons I learned. It's just maybe some of the little habits you did would carry over. And I think that's something that like I did, the Under the Bar book always struck something with me. But I'm like, man, how I love lifting, Dave. Like we would have died. I always think about what an idiot.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy, but
Yeah.
but it's hard for me to like, well, how do I get into a computer program with that same love? And I'm like, well, I can't, but I showed up, every day to train, like all those little discipline things that you don't really need the passion for can then come into play. And even if, you're kind of begrudgingly work on your, editing skills or whatever, you still out there doing the little stuff that will pay off at the end. I guess that's like, I always had like an issue with the Under the Bar thing. I'm like, yeah, but I don't love this.
Yeah.
But now I see like it's the bigger discipline picture.
My 5 rules.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they're awesome. I thought about these.
Never date a girl with a tattoo of a dagger on her
back. I got to sit back.
Yeah.
I got to sit back.
So what
Dave, do you got a pen there, buddy?
Write these down. These are good.
All right, hold on.
I'm thinking of getting this tattooed on me.
I'll tell you what, there better be 5.
There are.
Because if it ends up
I don't
being
want
4.
I want a 4 and then a 4A.
All right, 1.
There's 5. 1, show up on time.
Oh, shit.
2,
hold on. Give him time to write. It's like giving out your credit card number.
dress properly.
Oh, my God. Well, I guess it is a high school thing.
Yep.
It matters if you're going on a job interview.
Yep.
Follow directions. There's way more to it, but that's the simple one.
Shouldn't that be the first one since this is a list?
Yeah, that's right.
These idiots got to
Listen
show
to
up
my
on time
5
first.
Listen to my 5 things is number 1. Poor Rhodes.
Okay.
Have a good attitude.
Yeah.
You assholes. I love you guys. 5, give good effort.
There you go.
So 1 is follow directions.
No, 1 is show up on time, dress the right way, right? Follow directions, which is way more than just follow directions, but understand what is expected of you and execute that.
Okay, so if these are for the class, right?
Yeah.
So what happens if they don't show up on time?
Unfortunately, I can't do much to them, but I just found out that I can do a lot more than I thought.
Well, here's the thing.
So for me, what it's going to be is it's going to be, oh, you want to be late? Well, you don't get to work out today.
Well,
sit in a corner,
it's
whatever
not
it
just
is.
that. Is let's say the kid had a disappointing year, and you say, "Well, were you here on time all the time?" Well, no. Well, you have only yourself to blame. So it holds them accountable for their own success.
Now, are they graded each day?
That's still something I'm working on. So what I was told by the coaches, and I kind of knew this at the beginning, and I'm like, all right, I got other stuff to worry about right now. Just give them a 95 because it helps them be eligible. And I was like, I can do that. I am going to start grading this stuff, like randomly. Like, hey.
Well, is it pass fail or is it on a scale?
They get a 95.
Okay.
It's not
Right now.
It's not pass fail.
not pass
It's
fail.
A, B, C.
Yeah. So for now, like that was one thing that I have to figure out. I thought there were other things that were more important first before I worried about the grade part.
Well, if this is your first thing, attendance should be part of the grade. Like if they're
It's
late,
gonna be.
it should be checked, right?
Yeah. And then dress the right way, which is basically be proud of your school colors.
Yeah.
That stuff matters. It matters. It's not like you show up to Ohio State. I went to visit Ohio State to watch the football team work out. The last thing in the email the guy sent me was, "Don't wear anything blue."
Okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Matters.
Yeah.
It freaking matters. You know what I mean?
If they come when they're bare feet.
No Crocs, no Hey Dudes, and all this stupid stuff they want to.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know how much power I had, so I kind of was like, ugh. I talked to administration, and they're like, "Yeah, like, tell them to sit there and watch. If they're not dressed right,
Yeah.
just they don't get to work." I'm like, "Okay, good." So now I've got a little bit of power.
But wouldn't that be an incentive for the ones that don't want to work out?
Fine, let them suck.
Yeah.
I mean that's how I look. Let
But
them
if they
suck.
still get a
because-
95.
Yeah, we get
Well,
screwed out
that's
of
where I
class.
haven't figured out the grade part yet, which is
Yeah,
coming.
but you can veto these people.
Yes.
You can throw them out of the class.
Yeah,
so.
and so I found out, they're like, "Oh, 5 absences." I'm like, 5? Isn't it 3 strikes you're out? But okay, 5. So I the last couple of weeks of school, I'm like, "Hey guys, we're gonna have a cleanse." And they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get rid of some of you guys." And if you're wondering if I'm talking about you, it's probably you. Mm-hmm. It's probably you. And so I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10 kids got the note from and the principal was great. She's like, "Yeah, just go to." I can't remember her name right. It doesn't matter. Go to so-and-so and just tell them you want them dropped. Like they need to, if they sign up, they need to take this seriously. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I got a little, okay." And so down the line, it's like the kids are going to start to understand, like if you don't put out, you're out. No one cares.
That's his policy in high school too with girls.
Yeah. That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
But so it's
I'm saying when he was in high school.
When you were in high
There
school.
we
So
go.
I'm still like, I've pretty much figured out like the workout that we're going to do.
Yeah.
Whether you're in season or off season, there's a tweak here and there, but here's what we do. This is what Monday, Wednesday, Friday looks like. This is what Tuesday, Thursday looks like. I figured that out. Like the X's and O's. Now it's the stuff that Jim was talking about that nobody talks about. And I figured out the organization. The kids understand we have a main lift in the rack. You have your secondaries here and your tertiaries here, and everything works in a triangle.
Tertiary.
You like that? Big word. Everything works in a triangle.
Triangulate.
So
Triage.
yes. And then if you throw in something else, it works in a diamond.
Triples.
So everything. I'm just going to power through you guys interrupting me. But so like I figured that part out, and the kids have figured that out.
Trifecta.
Yeah.
Tribulation.
So now it's
Trace.
I'm just going to keep talking. So now it's those little
Trichomosis.
things that aren't
Trichinosis.
3 more little things.
the things.
I think that list of 5 should go down to
Okay,
3.
so you got this.
I hate you guys.
All right, so we got this triage, right?
I hate you guys.
So they show up on
and it
time.
can turn into a diage.
Yeah, so when they
with a
show up on
fourth.
time, where do they start in the triangle?
That's right.
That's not part of this is the X's and O's of lifting. Pay attention, man.
Got it.
Yeah.
So the XOX.
Yes.
So it's the X
It's
is
a
a-
Pythagorean
Yeah,
theorem.
yeah.
Okay. Anyhow.
A squared
then-
plus B squared equals C
So
squared.
the 5 rules are that's what I have to kind of figure out next. I had to get the organization of how a lift is going to go and get that ingrained in them.
Yeah.
Like this is our practice routine. This is
Yes.
what so I thought that was most important.
Okay, the base.
Yes. So now I can be like, hey, we're doing squat with this and this. You guys know what you're doing? Good. You got 18 minutes to get this done. Go. Mm-hmm. And then, in-season kids, you're doing 3s. Off-season kids, you're doing 5s. And Jim's right. I got to just keep that simple. Everyone's doing 5s, whatever. To me, that if I got that down, then I could coach and teach how to approach the weight room. When you walk in, do you have a mental prep that you go through to prepare for what you're about to do?
So if you were a math teacher, this is your book. Right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the policy.
Yeah.
You can't teach without the book,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
Where's
you
my
understand-
syllabus?
Yeah, the syllabus.
So you understand, and the funny thing is, like I'm writing curriculum. Like there is no curriculum. So whatever I write down is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Eventually, So
very esoteric there.
So now it's
whatever shall I write shall be.
Shall be. So I fucking hate you guys.
No, but it makes sense because you can't put the book together until you see the population that you're going to work with, right? Then you can't go change it every fucking semester, like a lot of coaches do, because it took you how long, just to get to this point.
So the system stays intact, and you can tweak the system, but the system stays intact. This is what Monday, Wednesday, Friday looks like. This is what Tuesday, Thursday looks like. So once that's in place, I thought then I can teach. Here's how you go about training. Here's how you prepare. Here's how you I call it unconventionally loading the bar. If you have 135 and you have 115, there's no reason to take the 25 and the 10 off, put the 45 on, take it back off, because next you got, it's like just.
Why not just have them both use 125?
Because
I tried that.
No, the issue is this, Dave. It's those kids, that 5 pounds means the world to them.
All right.
So it's like teaching them that.
It's like you're thinking like a 600-pound bencher.
Yeah.
Not a 120-pound bencher.
Okay.
And
what do you mean means the world to them?
Because the difference between 220 and 225 is massive for them.
Positive or negative sense?
Mentally, well, it's physically, it's a larger percentage of their.
Yeah.
Right. So that's and then mentally, knowing that you benched 215 rather than 205 is a huge leg up. And the fact that I did, 210 for 6 and you did 205 for 6, that's.
So it's a hierarchy.
Yeah. And I think the kids love seeing those little increases, man. I really do. And I discarded that, and then I remembered like when I was first started lifting 135, like, holy shit. I would, of course I lifted by myself. So when the time came for 135, I put the 45s on. But in the context that we're doing, we don't have time for that shit.
Yeah.
And I tell them, listen, I love, your enthusiasm for this, but you're wasting everyone's time, including mine. And we won't have that.
Pull the clip off, throw a 10 on, you got 135.
We don't even pull the clips off.
Doesn't.
Fucking, that's the base weight, and we put stuff on.
I do a little bit of that too, yeah.
Let's go.
It's like teaching that, like the art of loading the bar, like the art of bar math.
That's bar math is what Juliet
it's like,
called
hey, you got a 45-pound bar in 25s. That's 95 pounds. Like, Coach, how do you put 95 on? I'm like, do the math. So if I put a 5 on this, so it's like, hey, put on 5s. What's that way? 100? No. 5s on both sides? You don't just put it on one side.
Yeah.
So add 10 pounds to 95.
Put it in the middle.
I can see that. And
they're like,
you can say 5
120.
And
it's like, no, you have to have a 2.5 to have a 0 at the end of the weight. And you know this. You say the same thing over and over again. And they're like, oh, it's 125. I got 25 and a 10. It's like, oh my God.
I could coach the rest of my life with like 10 things, just autopilot.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So you can't say chip, nickel, dime, quarter.
No.
plate.
No.
Yeah.
No.
These are little things that most people would take for granted, though.
Yeah.
And your critics, right? The ones that say that you got to load everybody with 225-pound squats.
But then learning that it's not, the kids aren't dumb.
Yeah.
They just don't know yet.
It's ignorant.
Yeah. They don't know because they haven't been exposed. They haven't been forced to learn. Like, we can look at a bar with 6 plates and we know what it is.
Yeah.
They look at a bar and they're like, so it's a 25 and how much does this bar weigh? Every bar weighs 45. So it's 105. Oh my God. So like it's part of the learning curve. Yeah. We were at that point at some point in our curve.
Every bar weighs 45 unless it weighs over 45, then you take the extra weight and add it. That's what
after you're done training.
Of course.
After you're done training, because a safety squat bar with 2 plates is 225.
But a fucking curl bar is 45.
Right. But when you
that little tricep bar,
45.
Yeah. But when you write down how much you safety bar squatted in your training log, it's 20 pounds heavier than what the bar look. So it's just like those little things that I absolutely take for granted now. I'm like, how do you guys not know what 2 plates is? It's 225. How do you not know that? Like, some kids don't.
So that was radically different from where you were to where you are now.
If I said put 3 plates on the bar, every kid in the weight room knew it was 315.
Yeah.
And if I said 2 plates to the girls, they knew it was 225. Now it's like, Coach, what's 225? huh? How do you, they just don't know. It's not because they're stupid.
How long until that gets better? Because this is his first year there. He's been doing this for years.
It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
It's already gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
And the other thing I notice is the kids don't want to figure anything out. Tell me what it is. Coach, how do I put 185 on the bar? Figure it out. At first, I'm like, yeah, it's a plate and a quarter. And then the same kid asks the next time. And then the same kid asks again. I'm like, I'm not telling you. Figure it out. It's not hard. You need to not be spoon-fed. You need to learn this. Like, it's not hard to figure it out. But I think the educational system, they just spoon-feed these kids. And they don't force them to think. And they don't force them to work through the problem. Like, maybe some kids aren't as good as math, right? That happens. But you can figure this out. You can look at a bar and you know what it weighs if you're lifting long enough.
Yeah.
Like, you know what 205 looks like. You've just pictured it in your head. And they don't know that yet. So it's like, I'm not going to spoon feed you. Figure it out. Well, now you're holding everything up. Now your time limit's up. Now you don't get to do your final set. Figure it out. Like, you got to figure it out. If it's important to you, and when it is, magically they figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? So it's and I don't know how good of a job I'm doing at it, but they are improving. And there's stuff I look like. We have our fancy warm up, and it's a little simpler than
you did the Wendler warm up.
But like the first time we did it, it was like it took like 8 minutes, and now it's down to they're done in like 5 to 6 minutes. The whole group is, so it's like they figured it out. Here are your options. Do this, and they figured it out. So they're figuring it out. It's just again, that's stuff that I didn't really have to consider at the collegiate level, because you just say, hey, we're doing this, 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 and this. And the kids kind of knew what they were doing.
The other thing that you're dealing with right now is no one knows.
Yes.
Everyone's a freshman. Point now that if you're in the program, the seniors and juniors and sophomores know exactly what's going on. And then the young kids, they've obviously been training with my wife a little bit, but they can just look. Yeah. And they can just parrot, what the other kids are doing.
One of the things I noticed.
So he's got to get at least one group on board.
Yes.
Well, how's it work? Is it on semesters?
They take it for a year.
Oh, so it's the whole year, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have to start with a whole new group of people.
No, there'll be a few kids added here and there, but generally speaking, no.
Okay.
No. So
it will.
Yes, it will
grow.
become a habit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the goal is that when you come in, this is one of your classes the whole time. This is an elective class for 4 years. This is the one that's going to be the same every year.
Okay.
And then it turns into so what I realized is when I was at Morehead, when I installed my system, my seniors and my juniors learned it so well that honestly, for probably the past 5 to 6 years, I never coached a freshman. Mm-hmm. Freshman would do something wrong. I'd be like, one of the seniors would be like, Coach, I got this. And they would take care of it. So now I don't know how to coach new people anymore.
How many kids are in a class?
It depends. Anywhere from 6 to 30.
Okay. So it's manageable.
Yes. It's 30 kids on 5 racks, though.
It's
manageable, but but they're like, hey, we're going to get more racks. We can do this. How many kids, so it's coming.
Yeah.
So I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I haven't coached freshmen in probably 5 or 6 years because my seniors and juniors would take care of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much those older kids did that for me and brought those young new players up to speed. And I could always just focus on, here's what we do. And those kids would bring them up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so smart.
How many periods a day do you have?
I have 7. So I have a 0 hour.
5 days every month. Is that how many periods you have?
Yeah.
Three.
So I have a 0 hour. So we have a class that starts at 7 before school starts.
Yeah.
And then I have 4 classes in the morning. I get both lunches off. And then I have 3 classes in the afternoon.
So is that more than you had?
Yeah.
So
my daily schedule is busier.
Yeah.
But I'm done at 3:25. Whereas
Probably mentally done too.
fried.
He's done it
Fried.
noon.
So like I come in and I train.
Yeah.
I train.
Sucks for you
I'm like,
guys.
you got like one group, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He'll bitch about the one group, and it's like, you got to do 7 of this thing?
Yeah. So I train at 5 a.m. before the kids get in. And then, because when I'm done, I'm done. I go home, whatever I'm going to do. But then on Friday, like I don't have to go to games. I don't have to travel. It's all of my choice.
Yeah.
You know, so which I like to watch the kids play, but if I don't want to, I'm good. Like I don't. Whereas in college, it's like, all right, we're going to San Diego this week in football. It's like I don't have a choice. I'm getting on the bus, getting on the plane, sleeping in a hotel. My weekend's gone, and I turn right back around on Monday, and I'm back to work. Whereas now, like Friday at 2:45, I'm done till Monday at 7 a.m. So there's a great decompress. So my daily schedule is busier.
Yeah.
But my weekly schedule is way better, and I actually have a life, so I can get away from, and there's no wasted time. Like let's say we have football practice at 4 in college.
Yeah.
And there's a thunderstorm. At 3:58, I'm getting a call, hey, we're pushing practice to 6. So what do I do? Am I going to go home for 45 minutes, turn around, come back? Or am I just going to sit in my office for another 2 hours and read and sleep, whatever it is? So like there's no wasted time in my day.
Yeah.
It's done and it's over. So now I can do my other hobbies that I like to do.
Which are what?
Play the guitar, exercise,
Read.
and read. Those are my basics.
Yeah. But
I'm
you work
learning
out-
how to socialize better now because
Yeah.
I have time.
Yeah.
You know, I have time now to like, oh my God, this is what people do after work. Like they can, you know, take themselves out to dinner. They don't have to turn around and get home at 7:30 and be in bed by 9 so you can wake up at 4 to start a group at 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Now, you don't have as much time doing it, so it's probably not a fair question to ask. But if it was a kid coming into the industry, which way would you say is better?
Well, I have an answer for that one.
I don't know.
You got to go college.
I think so. Yeah, I
Because
think so.
You
yeah.
have more internship available.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Opportunities available. I think you're going to learn from better coaches.
Well, he's not going to learn from anybody. He's the only person there.
That's right. And you have a massive amount of athletes in college, all who want to kind of be there. Better facilities, better support, generally speaking. And your network is much bigger.
You're also at a different place in your life.
Yes.
You know, so you can move around.
Yes.
And
That's one of the reasons why I didn't want to do college anymore, because at a very young age, I'm like, I don't want to be moving all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And I mean, there's a bunch of other things, but that was one of them. Like, I want to kind of put my roots down somewhere.
Yep. And so for me, like I just bought my first house at 47 years old. Actually, I was 46 when I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's because
That
in
makes a
college,
difference.
like you never know.
Yeah, I
like
know.
you never know. Like the AD may not like you, or the football coach may.
Well, the football coach might get fired.
yeah, and it's
now you gotta go find
my
another
job
job.
wasn't as tied to that as it like at Ohio State or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still there. Like the AD did not like me because I had an opinion and I didn't think he walked on water.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like me at all. I mean, I didn't like him either, so it worked out. But so there was always an uncertainty. And so I never bought a house. So I'm like, oh, I got a house. So far, it's been great because nothing's gone wrong. But it's like that's a whole new so it's allowed me a whole new
Yeah, a
experience.
whole new world, right?
Yeah,
you'll
a
see.
whole new experience. And
Did you ever drive by your old house on, what road was that on?
At Awamba?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they taking good care of it?
It's been years since I drove by.
Oh.
But I would even drive by the house I had in downtown Columbus every now and again. Like
Yeah.
you get in your head like, man, I should probably, because you start getting frustrated and pissed off about everything. I should
Yep.
probably go and see
Dude,
where I start.
I take James to the Little's Haircut Factory.
Yeah.
It's an awesome in-town place. They just do kids' haircuts.
Yeah.
And it's right across the street from 122. Mm-hmm. And man, there's not a, we go there every 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
I stare at that thing. I'm like, holy cow. I took a picture in front of it. I was so happy.
Yeah, yeah.
It was, what an awesome time.
Yeah. I mean, I drive by that. And
It's just so everyone's clear. That's where
Yeah.
Elite, I guess, their first
the
office
first, yeah,
outside.
the first outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
I drive by that every day, and
I don't
you
think
can't
there's anyone
not
in
look
there.
at it. There's not.
Yeah.
And it is, it's funny to think about because the warehouse was like the size of this table, and it fucking was like 3 steps down. So when it would rain, the sump bump would fucking, it's all fun, to look back on.
Yeah.
And at the time, it's stressful as fuck.
No
It's
air
like,
conditioning.
Oh shit, it's raining. I got to drive into town, make sure the sump pump's working, so I don't lose my 5 fucking videos that are sitting on the bottom shelf because I'm an idiot, and. But those things are when I get really, like I said, when I get frustrated, you got to ground yourself a little bit sometimes.
You guys think of a topic, 47-year-old prostate's kicking in.
Got it.
I drove past the Maple Street all the time, and I don't think there's anyone there either. I know
there's something there.
Though there is.
Yeah,
I know. Is the lumber company still there?
No. But I drove past after the other people moved in because my curiosity just killed me. Like I had to see what it looked like inside the office, right?
It's like an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
who are you dating?
Yeah, we didn't do shit except put tables in or desk and stuff. And I walked in and they do something with music shit, equipment or whatever. And like everything was, I'm looking at this like, wow, this looks really nice. And the other side of me is, you stupid fuckers put all this money into this. This landlord ain't gonna do shit for you. But it was like, wow, this could have looked way better.
I could have done much better.
Yeah, this could have been way better. And then I was telling them, it's like, well, about the driveway. I'm like, the reason why we had this cut out like this is because it rains so bad, it's gonna flood your warehouse.
Yep.
So I'm giving them all this inside shit, and they're like looking at me like nobody told us this.
Did you guys leave the strongman stone there? The piss stone?
No, they're sitting out there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, that was a strongman stone that was outside the weight room, and everyone pissed on it. Everyone pissed on it.
I think it said Dave don't touch when they first saw him or some shit like that.
Like you were going to pick that up.
I know.
I was going to do some strongman work, but I guess not.
All right, that's my note there on that other one.
Hey, you can keep those notes, by the way.
Oh, I got that.
You can use that.
Yeah.
Use that.
It's on here. I've already lost them.
Good.
I know there's 5 things. Show up, right? Show up, be on time.
Something about carbs.
Attitude.
Right?
Effort.
Follow directions.
And follow directions. And follow directions should be first, but it's not. And then there's some triage shit. That was the math. The math book is the triage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's
Bingo.
that's what you.
Dave, you got it. You figured it out.
This is your life's work.
Took me 3 years to figure this out. It took
more
you
than
8
that.
seconds.
More than that. You've been doing this for how long?
Yeah.
It's like 3 decades to come up with 5 things.
Yeah. Listen, I got hit in the head a lot, and I'm not that bright.
No, I think there's a good point here. After how many decades? 3 decades?
Yeah. Yeah.
3 decades or whatever it was. What it comes down to is the most important things that you have for training athletes is to show up, dress proper, follow directions, have the right attitude, and
give good effort.
And get good effort, right? That's after 30 years of working with athletes all across the spectrum. So these people that are coming in the industry that think that their pause deadlift is the super answer, or whatever else is the super answer, or their program is the super answer. This is what you've come up with after 3 decades of doing this. And I don't think anybody else that's been in for that long is going to disagree with a single one of those.
Because it helps in life.
Yeah.
It helps at a job interview. It helps when some kid comes in to work for you. I think it
That's all that.
right? Because you it's a choice.
Yeah.
So show up on time.
I have my own coaching
Yeah.
principles, and I only have 2 so far.
What are those?
Don't coach what you don't know,
Yeah.
and be the best beginner coach you can be.
Yeah.
And I still haven't. I haven't given a ton of time, but I'm like, I've been working on that for like 20 years, and I've thrown most of that shit out. But
So if we all go back 3 decades from now, we got probably 30 things on that list.
Yeah.
Do speed work, do max effort shit.
Well, that was back in the day.
You see what I'm saying? So there's all these different things on there that over a period of time they're not relevant.
Nope.
What's relevant is are the kids getting better? Are the kids getting stronger? How are they getting stronger? And then as I work with people that are take the shit super, super serious, but it still comes down to these simple things. The only thing I would put in there is you have to teach them how to train themselves.
Yes.
They have to learn how to auto rate. Your kids, no, they don't. They're so far away from that. You know, they don't. They have to be told what to do. Before
the worst
they know
thing
what
is
to do.
for them to train themselves.
It is the absolute worst thing.
That's the discrepancy between those two populations.
Yes. Yeah. But it's.
But the way I look at train themselves now is if I can teach the triangle.
Yeah.
This is how every lift is going to operate. If I can teach that, then they don't have to think about, well, where I go next. When I go here, I go to this one, and then I go to this one, and then I come back here, and then they can learn to be super efficient in that training setup.
But you're drawing a circle.
But it's a triangle because they're going to round off the corners a little bit when they walk.
An uncompleted octagon.
All right, Mr. Geometry here. It's an isosceles triangle.
Okay. Oh fuck. No, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you got me.
I
on
know
that one.
that's a thing. I don't know which one it is.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
We'll jump to a question here. Have you all been in a bind in a squat suit? So you have to take a piss and you can't get the suit off, or you can't get your squat suit off.
I got a brand new suit, and it took probably an hour to get on, and it took 6 dudes in about 2.5 hours to get out. It was the most miserable experience, and I think we ended up just cutting. And it was, you know, how it was a denim suit. So what is that, $300? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't making a ton of money, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. My legs were purple. Mm-hmm. It's the worst thing ever. That's when I was like, I didn't even work out today.
Oh, you just put it on?
Put it on. It was so tight, I couldn't do anything. And I'm like, we got to get this thing off. And the guy's like, seriously? And these, you know, the guys had to work out too.
Yeah.
So it's like, you do your set and come back and give it a tank. That was the worst fucking thing. The piss thing, though, that's a rookie move. Because when you put your briefs on, you still have a chance.
Yeah,
Yes.
but when you're taking the effort, you have the fake, the pseudo pisses.
Yep. That's
phantom piss.
That's why. But still, I still think that's a rookie move. Like it's like going on a road trip without taking a shit in the morning. Like you're not leaving until you evacuate. Yeah. And you smoke that cigarette if you got to drink that
extra cup of coffee. Yeah. Do what you got to do. Yeah. I mean, I probably ran into it, but
You don't remember it?
yeah, it's like Jim said. I'm going to put this stupid thing on, and then I'm going to put a suit over the top of it. I don't want to take it off and put it on again. And I didn't squat heavy enough to worry about it, so I wasn't really squatting for that long, anyways. But
I remember when I squatted 1,000, Bob handled me, and my suit at the time was super loose. I'm not like bragging, and I remember I put it on, and Bob's like, "Dude, this can't be your suit." And now I'm freaking out. I'm like, "Holy shit! Did I grab the wrong?" And I was like, "Bob, it's fine. I'm pretty sure this is how it's supposed to be." And he's like, "I don't know, buddy." I'll just never forget. I'm like, "Really? You're gonna fuck with me right now?"
Exactly.
Whatever. Bob was a great handler, man. Fuck.
Yeah, he was really good. The only one it's happened to me a lot. Obviously.
Well, tell the story when you got caught in your suit and you had to go ask some
That's
lady.
the funniest one. The funniest one was when I was in high school, and I'm training alone, and I don't even know how I got the straps up.
That's
because it was an old school suit, right?
no Velcro.
So I had to use like a J cup and dig my shit in. So I get it on, do my squat sets, and I can't get the straps down. And then I'm in there by myself, so there's nobody in there. So I had to go across the street to the drugstore.
Dude, the best part is you walking across the street.
Yeah, I know. So I got boots on too, because I squatted in fucking boots. So I have on like the generic Timberlands because I couldn't afford real ones. Yeah. So I got these
look
fucking
good with
boots
jeans,
on.
though.
Yeah, with like white tube socks and a squat suit, a blue squat suit. And I'm with the straps up. And I'm going to the drugstore in the corner and asking the lady that's working the counter, like, "Can you pull this down?" She's like, "What is that? Is that a wrestling singlet?" Yeah, it's kind of.
It's an extra small.
I like to wrestle with my boots on.
Yeah, that was fucking.
I'm doing a gay photo shoot.
Yeah. The other ones were usually at meets because you get so bloated, and then you're freaking out because can you get it off before you got to warm up your bench and stuff like that. That was. Yes, so it happened. Now, I never had the pee thing either because it is a rookie fucking move. You feel like you got to pee. Now, taking a shit, never had that either.
Or you just hold your fucking piss like a man.
And the other thing, like playing football, when you get everything situated, you're like, there's no way you're going to get it resituated when you're all sweaty and nasty.
Yeah.
One of my good friends would piss his pants every game. Every single game he pissed his pants in high school. And it was like, he's like, it's psychological warfare.
Oh, exactly.
No one wanted to block him.
Yeah, I can say, oh, God.
Same thing. You got to prep ahead of time.
That's right.
Because once it's situated, it ain't getting back to that kind of comfort.
Yeah.
Even with the jock strap, which is a lost art nowadays, I believe.
What about a cup?
No. Just put a sock in there.
A sock?
Well, just for
No, it's a
impressiveness.
joke. Yeah.
All right. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Did I miss something?
Half a baked potato.
Yeah. I got you.
Shot who in the what now?
Weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse. Apocalypse.
Well, in theory, it'd be an awesome gun, but you're going to run out of ammo. So probably some kind of cool sword that is wieldable.
I say a giant Black Hawk helicopter so you can get the hell out of there.
That'd be pretty.
I'm going with that. Yeah, I didn't think about the gun thing until you said you run out of the ammo, because I'm going through different guns in my head, like what's going to blow them off, but then you got an ammo problem.
Yep, it's the ammo issue. So.
Yeah, and then an axe is too close.
Yeah, I don't need to be smelling their breath.
Yeah, just get the fuck out.
Good pair of running shoes.
No, we ain't running.
We'd be a little skinnier by then.
Yeah, I mean, you got a fake hip too. We ain't running anywhere.
The other one's coming.
You guys be running like
the other one's coming.
It's not there yet, but I'm getting some of the same symptoms. You know, where it goes down your groin to your knee, and you get the ache on the outside. I'm like, it's coming. It's not soon, but every now and then.
As soon as I got that on the second one, I went in. Yeah. I'm not.
I don't now. If I was in Rhode Island where I had my first one done, I think that doc would be like, yeah, let's do it. Because he looked at me when we looked at the X-ray. He's like, this one's gonna need it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know. But so I got to find all new doctors and surgeons and all that stuff now. So I've avoided surgery for 6 years though. I'm super proud of myself.
No, that's always a good thing.
6
but
years.
As soon as it starts lighting up, you know.
But the shoulder isn't bad, but I need a new one. This is coming. Super psyched.
Yeah, you.
And I finally got this glute back. You know, it looks kind of good, and you know what I'm talking about.
No, not at all.
in the
right. Oh, you mean the one that you
that they cut open?
Replaced. Yeah. How did you get that back?
Just body weight squatting and training and
lifting weights.
Yeah, like
it
nothing,
just came back over time.
Yeah, write that down, Dave.
It's still horrible.
Resistance training.
Resistance training
builds muscle mass.
Yeah. What was the worst injury you had in the weight room?
Me, probably the ruptured bicep tendon.
Yeah. And
probably
how did you come back from that?
Surgery, and then just my PT wasn't used to working with athletes. So I got like some drills to do, and then just kind of used a little common sense, like
drills,
exercises, rehab stuff. Yeah. Everything's a drill now.
I know.
Did karaoke.
God, I hate you guys.
Why was this supposed to help my biceps?
You knew exactly what I was talking about.
I know that.
He's catching punts from the jugs machine.
Yeah, but you know, like you're in the sling, so everything atrophies.
Yeah. So how long were you in sling?
2 weeks.
How long were you supposed to be in it?
2.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they took the stitches out, and then I got one of those fancy JJ Watt braces, and I started my rehab process, and then eventually that was extended all the way, so I could use it. I just needed to support, and then that came off. I don't know, maybe that whole thing. Maybe I was in that for 8 weeks. I can't remember. And then it was just, got to do bicep curls, got to do push downs, you got to get your forearm going, you got to get supination and pronation, you got to wake your shoulder up because it all atrophies. So it was like.
So you were compliant with everything that they wanted you to do?
Yeah, I just kind of did it my way, but I did what they told me to. When I would go in for rehab, it'd be like, okay, do this with a hammer, do that 3 sets of 10. Okay, do this. Okay, see ya. I'm like, okay, like I can do this on my own. I don't need to spend money on this.
Yeah.
So, and instead of doing that, I think I saw them maybe 3 times a week to start. So I would just do the same stuff on Tuesday and Thursday. Mm-hmm. So I would do it 5 times a week, and I might do sets of 15 or 20. Or, but I didn't do anything outside of what they told me to do. I just did more of it.
So you didn't do the stupid shit to be able to get it back?
No. Yeah. That's the one thing I learned with all of it is just, I'd rather be slow on the front end, because once you get cleared, and they're like, you're good to go, then you just take off. if you rush.
What do you mean you learned? So did you have other things that you went fast on the front end?
Just
Call
like
it front load the rehab.
Yeah.
The longer you take
like-
to rehab, the better your strength gains over. And
Yeah.
you're less potential
So-
for re-injury.
things that I didn't have surgery for, but I rushed, like the hip and the lower back,
It's better to take 4 weeks off and be completely good than take 2 weeks off, train for another 2 weeks,
and then be
re-injure it,
off again. Yeah.
have another 6 weeks because you did it.
Yeah. And then so like with the surgery, I was just like, I
It's
don't
good
wanna
in
go.
theory, but it's hard to do
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I don't do it at all.
I don't either.
I'm
Yeah.
a fucking mess. So
Yeah.
So, and I try to preach that to the kids because, like the high school kids, most of them have never had a real injury before,
Yeah.
and it's like, you're gonna be fine, man. I've gone through this 11 times. Like, you're fine. This is so easy. Like, it's gonna take time. Like rehabbing an ACL, it's like it's a joke. It's really easy, but it just takes a lot of time. But there's no secret to it. It's very simple.
No, but
when a kid doesn't understand it, it's like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I'm like, no, dude, you're good. It's just gonna take time.
But that creates this weird fucking balance, right? Because if you're to go back and look at every twinge, even with football, right? Every twinge that you ever had, and if you had to take off the 2 weeks,
well,
That's understanding what's an
that's
injury and being
what's-
a little hurt.
Being hurt and being injured is completely different.
Yeah.
yeah,
Injured
but
is
how do
something.
you explain those? How do you explain that to your kids?
That's a tough one because
Yeah, you just gotta fuck up. Just like how do you know when to stop right before failure? Well, you gotta fail.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, I always think about it as imagine being blindfolded with no shoes on. You're walking towards a cliff, and towards the cliff there's grass, there's dirt, and there's rocks, and the rocks are the last thing before you fall off. So the first time you feel the rocks and then you fall off. The second time you feel the rocks, you're like, holy shit, I got to back off. And then pretty soon, like, well, listen, once I get to the dirt, I know I got to back off.
but you have to
you're-
fall off.
You're going to have to fall off a bunch of times. I think there's this weird world where everyone, and I understand, like, hey, don't learn from my mistakes, but most of the stuff you got to learn from experience.
But you're in a weird position as a coach because I'm sure we all had injuries nobody ever knew about. You know, through training, through sports, and all this stuff. But as soon as you would have said something,
That's the hard thing is
Now
as
it
soon
puts
as
it
a
on the
kid is hurt,
coach.
then I send him to the trainer.
yeah.
And because that's not my responsibility, I don't know anything about that stuff. And our trainer, Eric, is awesome because she doesn't meddle with me and I give her all the space and she trusts me and I trust her. So it's perfect. So
I actually have.
I don't try to do
situation
her
too.
job and she
Yeah,
doesn't try to
yeah,
do mine. It's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
So when the kid says something to me, it's like, oh, coach, my ankle.
I always tell
If
them,
we
go
were
see
playing,
Erica.
if we were playing in a state championship game, would you play? Well, yeah. Are you going to practice today? Yeah. And you want to skip lifting because?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get looks like, well, go see the trainer then. I don't like if you want to suck, go ahead and suck. Like I can't.
Yeah.
But like at a certain point, it's like if you're going to practice, how hard is it to do a body weight squat on Wednesday in the warm up on your
Yeah.
ankle?
But you're in a different spot when
Right.
when I was playing sports as a kid. If I was hurt, you know, the coach is basically just shut the fuck up and get out there and
Yeah,
do what you're supposed to. You can't do that.
No.
No, and so that's why I asked. And for me, it's the question: if we were playing in a state championship game, would you play? Well, yeah. Why
I get
would
it.
you skip lift? And to make them think about it
Yeah.
instead of telling
I
them
think
like you're fine.
The important thing is,
You know.
is just like everything, it regulates itself. The kids who are older, more experienced, are tougher. Well, no, like, listen, I'm not saying anything. I know I can power through, and the young kids have to learn.
Yeah.
You know, and some of the young kids are just tougher. Maybe they've grown up with big brothers. Like, you have a black eye, it's like, who gives a shit? So I think a lot of that is just, again, it's experience, and I think attitude plays a big role. I remember my freshman year of high school, my ankle was so bad. It was like black and blue. It was the size of a softball, and I was terrified to tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents because my ankle hurt so bad all the time. I was limping, and finally, like, my dad saw my ankle. He was like, "What the hell's going on here?" And I was like, "I'm like, I didn't want to tell anyone. I don't want to not play."
Yeah.
And you know, the kids will naturally do what they're supposed to do according to their experience and their personality type. So, but generally speaking, if a kid is injured, I go see Erica, and that's just the way it goes. So
And I don't know
you
if
can't play that game, Dave, anymore. You can't just.
No, I figured that.
That's not going to work.
So the other thing, you probably get this too, but it's like, have you seen a trainer? No. Well, if it's so bad, how come you haven't seen the person whose job it is to help you get better?
Yeah.
Like they get paid to help you get better, and you haven't seen them. So how bad is it really? I try to just make them think about it. And, at the end of the day, it's like, you rolled your ankle and you're walking. It's fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. But the kid has to figure that out, has to decide. Like you said, every bump and bruise, like, oh, you broke your finger, you're going to skip practice. Like, it's a finger. Tape it together. If that doesn't work, add another finger. Science, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, but again, that's what Jim said. You grew up differently. Maybe intrinsically you're a little tougher. Maybe you've never had a real injury before, so you don't know. So any pain is like, oh my God, it's the end of the world.
Well, it's a different time too, because it's, a lot of athletic trainers, hell, even strength coaches now are being contracted to schools through Ohio Health or other big insurance companies, which I don't know what my thought is on that, right? Because somebody's got to pay them. You know what I'm saying? The schools can't afford to pay them. So it's a weird fucking thing. But now, are they just reps for the fucking,
They got the wolf in the hen house kind of thing.
Yeah, where it's,
Well, our Erica's contracted through Nationwide.
Yeah.
Because obviously we can't afford that. And
Yeah.
I think she does a wonderful job. And I think there's a lot more leeway because it's a huge company. There's tons of schools. I don't think they're really butting their heads in so much. So I don't know about because I know they contract strength coaches too, and I have only met a couple. But whether or not they're good or not, it's probably better than nothing.
I mean, there's pros and cons of everything to where now if schools can get coaching that they otherwise wouldn't get, and hell, if coaches can get jobs they otherwise wouldn't get, then there's that. But with anything, there's always going to be that other end.
Yep. It's a.
The difference,
I already know where you're going with this, Dave. I'm going to stay out of it.
I'm not going there. I mean, but it becomes this weird fucking thing to where, how much as coaches coming up, how much not authority, but when you want to say what you want to say, like you said, your athletic director didn't get along you guys butted heads, right? But he didn't fire you, right? And you didn't quit. So it doesn't matter if you don't get along or not, if you both are on the same page to accomplish the same objective.
Right.
I would say that's actually a good thing because it's going to create more critical views and critical conversations. That's good. That's not bad. But you are the type of person to actually say something. Right now, if these are coming up through and that's who their boss is, are they going to say something?
Well, here's what I think is those positions are stepping stone positions.
Okay.
Like Buddy Morris is not working for Nationwide. So I think that's a great way for these young coaches to get experience and learn how to deal with that stuff, learn the good stuff and the bad stuff, and then they're going to get another job. They're not going to stay there. That's not a career. At least at least in the strength coach. The physical, like the trainers I know, they do other stuff. That's not their full-time thing all the time. They help out in other areas. So, but I think you're going to have some limitations, but you're moving on. You're not. It's not like you're in the Senate for 40 years, and you have all this clout. It's just you're going to be moving on pretty quick.
The other thing I think, and it may be off topic here a little bit, but you have better relationships with some kids, and you can talk to some kids a little differently. So the kids that you maybe naturally gravitate towards for whatever reason, or you have a better relationship with them because they come see you, and you can talk to them differently about it. It's like, are you really hurt, or are you just being a baby? Well, I'm kind of, you know what I mean? So I think that the relationship side of it, I think, plays a role in there too. And then at some point, a parent's going to be mad at me. To my knowledge, no one's really mad at me right now, which is awesome because as far as I can tell, either that or administration's keeping them away from me, which is even better.
Yeah.
But eventually someone's not going to like me. And then, so that kid, you have to step a little bit differently with them.
Yeah.
On things. Oh yeah, you're hurt. Okay. Yeah. Go Go ahead, sit on the box.
I think this segues into what this
You know?
question is here, which I pretty much know our answer is are all going to be the same, which like who gives a fuck, and that is what's the thoughts on the future of the strength and conditioning profession? Like I said, I don't think any of us are going to give a fuck, and I know why.
Yeah.
I don't even know what.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously going to continue and grow and all that, but
I don't really know. What
I
that
focus
question
on
is.
what I have to do.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what the kids I work with and their success, and am I doing right by them? Are they walking away better for having been with me?
Yeah, I don't.
Like that's what
goes,
it's kind of like the thing, like supposedly I'm the only person in Arkansas doing what I'm doing. Great. I don't really care what the other schools think.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the kids that I have in my care every day. And if people like what I'm doing and they want to talk, awesome. If they don't, I don't care. Like I've got a job to do and I have a responsibility. And so I don't think much about the strength and conditioning world. It's going to grow, obviously.
Well, I think the people that will ask things like this, because it's a very common question, they're kind of dabbling and trying to figure out, is this an industry that they want to be in or not be in? And I understand where the question comes from, but it doesn't change their pursuit or their endeavor. Where to me, you always got, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's business, strength and conditioning,
You want to do it or you don't.
Well, you got to take care of yourself first. If you're not in order, your health is not in order, your mental health is not in order, that has to be taken care of first, right? Because you can't, after that, you need to take care of your family, obviously. You can't take very good care of your family if you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
You're going to be shitty, to be able to take care of after that, it's your community, and then whatever's after that. People want to focus too much on that whatever's after that is instead of focusing on what themselves.
Because you got to admit to yourself, there's something wrong with me, or that I need work.
Well, it's work.
I need to work on this. I can't just avoid it by diving into this. Like exactly what you said. If I'm not training and I'm not taking care of myself, the kids are going to see it.
Yep.
It's going to affect my mood. It's going to affect my decision making. It's going to affect everything.
Yes.
So that's got to be squared away for you to be efficient and effective at anything.
Well, with those people that are asking those questions, I wonder, are they really?
I know what you're saying. I never questioned where everything was going because this is all I know how to do.
Yeah. I mean, if you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of your community, you don't have a whole lot of fucking time to worry about what's going on in an industry. You're going to be fucking tired. There's not a whole, now if all they know is what's happening in the industry, then I'm going to guarantee they're not doing this, this, and this, which means they're not going to get better.
Well, they're not just, it's not just that, it's worrying about the job that they're doing, not just themselves. But I've never thought about the strength and conditioning community because I'm so focused on what I'm doing that to the point where people will say like, how the new fad is. And I'm like, dude, I've never, in 30 years, I've never heard this in my entire life. And I'm not, like I always say, I'm not a Luddite with, technology and stuff like that. I'm very focused on this because I've seen all the fads come and go. I've seen all this shit. And strength and conditioning is going to be fine. It's going to exist and it's going to grow. And like usual, there's going to be some great guys, there's some bad guys, there's going to be some weirdos, there's going to be all that stuff. And it's just going to continue to grow as long as athletics are going to, you see the NFL ever going away or college football, at least, in the next 2 or 3 generations, no. So it'll be fine. So I think the big question is I wouldn't worry about that because just worry about getting your shit in order, like you said, and worry about your job. You'll be all right. There's a place for people that are good.
I think if people actually got their own shit in order first, they'd realize they don't have that much time.
Yeah, well, that's
that alone takes a lot of time.
The problem is everyone's trying to change the world before they try to change themselves, and the reason being is you can never change the world.
Yeah,
and that's now it becomes this pursuit that you can always fail at and still feel good about yourself. Where when you have to look at yourself in the mirror, now you have some responsibility. Now you have you have to have some discipline to make some changes, and now it's on you. I can't clean up the world's oceans, but I can if I sit here and lament about it, I may look good to some people, but I'm really not doing anything.
But in that sense, you let the world change you.
Oh yeah.
Like, so you see what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
can't change it, but it can easily change you, which
So-
pulls you away from what's most
But
important.
I've noticed the better I've gotten at being me, the better coach I've become, the
Yeah.
better father I've become. And I always liken it to the old, when you're flying and the cabin pressure drops, they always tell you put your mask on first before helping your kids. And that's how I view my relationship with my wife more important than my relationship with my kids, because if that goes sour, then the whole family goes sour, and it doesn't really matter. And I'm not saying like I spend all my time with my wife, and like I spend more time with my kid and stuff, but the point being is I make sure that's always the number one focus for me, is to making sure my wife and I have a terrific relationship. So, but that goes, in just about every area. And it's funny because when you meet people and talk to people, you can get a sense of whether or not they're taking care of their shit. And it's always generally people who complain about everything else. And I'm like, dude, you would see the world a lot differently if you took care of yourself, a lot differently. And and I think I've kind of grew up with that idea. My parents, that was kind of a normal way for me thinking, but I see it more and more now, like how important it is for me to remain healthy. And when I went through all kinds of back pain, my wife told me, she's like, you're not the man I married anymore. You're so angry all the time, because I was in pain. And I was like, holy shit, look at that. Like, again, let's get my body back and feeling fairly good. So that's, and I don't know. I think way too many people are focusing on the bigger, massive issues when those things would take care of themselves as everyone took care of themselves.
I believe so. And I think it's a way to divert their attention away from what they don't want to do. Which
Yes,
is
well,
actually,
because that means they're accountable.
exactly. Accountability is the key thing.
And now they don't. Yeah. So.
Which with your rules, your 5 rules, keeping the kids accountable.
Maybe number 6 could be accountability.
Well, I think all of it kind of plays into
Yes.
that. Because they are, I could push back and say the dress proper thing's kind of stupid, right? But that is keeping them accountable to something that's very easy to do.
Yes. That's why
And I got that from Bo Schembechler.
Yeah,
If you can't show up on time and dress the right way, we got bigger problems.
Well, it's the make your own bed
Yes.
every morning. It's the Van Halen brown M&Ms. Do you ever know that story? It's the very same thing. Is we're just asking you to do the little things, because I know if you can do those, I can count on you for the big things.
Tell the story for the people that may not know.
So every band has what's known as a rider. It's RIDER. That is something that they give every venue prior to playing. Like, so before Van Halen would play the big time arena, the Enormo Dome, for your Spinal Tap fans out there, they would so they would have chicken buffet. They'd have all the stuff they wanted: 15 waters, 30 sodas, 10 cases of beer, whatever. And they would always put in the rider 5 or 15 packages of M&Ms with all the brown M&Ms taken out. And they asked them why. He said, well, if we would go backstage and there'd be brown M&Ms, we know that they cut corners, and we wouldn't want to play there, especially if we had pyrotechnics or anything that was, scary. So we knew if they didn't take care of the little stuff, that we couldn't count on them to take care of the big stuff. So, boy, I tell you what, if you want to have a good laugh, read some bands' writers. It's unbelievable.
What are some of the other ones?
You'll see 10 bottles of whiskey, 4 Jim Beam, 2 Jack, and then a couple local or microbrews and beers, 2 cartons of Marlboro Reds, 1 of Camel Lights, 15 bean burritos from Taco Bell. I mean, some of it, and then 1 package of cotton underwear. It's like the most random shit. And obviously, the bigger you are, the more crazy some of the things get. Like, I want a full 10 couches. That were leather couches and stuff like that, and they have to provide them for them if they want to play. Obviously, if it's me, you, and Rhodes playing, we're not.
No, I get it, but if they're trying to test somebody, they got to be more strategic.
But it's funny because when you live in a world where all you have is yes man, you can see how it can just get out of hand. That like silk curtains, on the windows and stuff, and it's like, Jesus Christ, they're just trying to put on a good show here. But whatever, they have them all over the internet. I haven't looked at them in years, but some of them are absolutely hilarious, the amount of stuff. And it's like that also comes out of the band's budget. I'm sure some of that gets billed. But anyway, it's awesome because if your buddy's traveling with you, it's like, dude, we don't have to fucking pay for liquor.
Yeah.
We can get all our cigarettes taken care of at least. We have, a bunch of food. So I don't know, whatever. There you go. Van Halen telling us about life.
Right. Yeah.
David Lee Roth.
Yeah. So if you were to put a writer on something, what would it be?
Oh my God.
That's the first time.
No, I can flip it. Let's
That's
say,
the first time I've ever heard of it. So.
Well, I think everybody has it in some degree. Let's say you have assistants that come in and start working for you, or when you had assistants, there's always low hanging fruit you're going to put in there, right? It's easy to do, but when it's not done, that is your clue. Okay, if this isn't done, I got to look here, and here because this isn't being done. It's easy to look and see.
Yeah,
that's what it is. They got to, the brown M&Ms obviously isn't going to work anymore because people are going to know. Then they're going to make sure it's always in there. But for most, it's just going to be some.
Yeah, I think the big thing is I hired assistants. It was, you're going to run my program, period. You need to learn this because. So I was in a situation, and it happened with a couple other teams, but the one team that always sticks in my mind is our women's soccer team. So we had a couple fifth-year seniors. Those girls had 6 different strength coaches in their time. Ooh. So there's zero consistency. Mm-hmm. So in my head, the program can be the consistency. So they don't have to learn anything new there. So you may have a different voice coaching it, but how the workout's going to run. So there's some sense of consistency. And then for me as the head coach, I can track progress because it's my system. You're using.
I think this needs to be pointed out.
The
Rhodes was the head guy. The girls' strength and conditioning coach was an assistant, and that assistant changed as they got different jobs over the years.
Yeah, and then so for me to be able, when my assistants were gone, I could still look at everything and say, this is working, this isn't working. I could watch the women's soccer team, and I knew what they were doing, even if I didn't write the program, because they had some guidelines that they had to use my system. So I would say that was one thing that I had. And then, I guess the other thing would be willing to read and learn stuff that you don't agree with. Don't just read the stuff that you learned in school. And if you don't know West Side, here, read this book that I got from Louis. Or you don't know 531, read Jim's book. Read these different things. Which is one, it's going to help you figure out my system, but 2, it's going to introduce you to something completely outside of what you were taught in school and what you were maybe taught at the last place you were at, which isn't bad, but now you've got what you learned there, Jim's system, Louis' system, whatever it is, now you've got all these different potential, your toolbox is getting bigger.
Yeah.
So you can draw, and then eventually you can create your own system. Like I like how Rhodes does this. I don't like how he does this. Great, you learn something. Yeah. But if you're not willing to immerse yourself in what you don't understand, you don't know why you don't like what I do. You just don't like it.
Well, it's the development of the training philosophy.
Yeah.
Right. So if you never look outside of what your base is, you're never going to do that. Yeah. You're going to have a very small box.
Yeah.
Right now, at the end of the day, your box may end up being 5 rules or 2 rules. But there's a lot of shit that goes into those 2 rules. And I think this is what people miss.
Yeah.
Is that part. It's like, oh, this is really simple, but it took a lot to get there.
Like I always explain it to the younger kids that I had was, you come to me and your toolbox is this big. My toolbox used to be that big. And then through my years, the toolbox, and this is true for all of us, our toolbox got so friggin' big. And then at a certain point, our toolbox is back down to the same size it was when we started. It's just the tools are more efficient.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that. I think you just become a master of a handful of tools.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you can be the master of until you actually fill the box up.
Yeah. And screw up a lot. Like I used to tell the kids that my assistants, I'm like, how was that program? It was awesome. I'm like, you've never written a bad program, have you?
Yeah.
And it's like, I've written horrible programs. And as you play them out, you're like, oh, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
But like no one's ever written a program and been like, oh man, that was terrible. It's always like, oh, it's great. Are you sure it was great? because we had a buttload of hamstring issues and hip flexor issues on this team. Are you sure it was good? Well, yeah, I mean, they got stronger. But getting stronger in the weight room, if it doesn't equate to the field or the court, did it really work? Like being able to look at what you did and go, yeah, I kind of screwed up on that one.
Or they'd be weaker on the field, which
Yeah.
defeats the whole purpose.
Right. So great, you're strong in the weight room. It's like we were stronger powerlifters
Yeah.
than we were athletes.
Oh, yeah.
But did we need powerlifting strength to be great athletes? No. You know what I mean? And so it's like no one's ever written a bad program. And so when, like, for me, I can look back at a few and just like, oh, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But then when real life kicks in and coach decides on Friday morning when the team runs that we're going to do overtime, and overtime is going to be one of the dumbest things you could ever think about at the end of week 8 of winter training, when you know the kids are already a little, it's like, I could have avoided this because I knew this was coming. I knew he was going to have one of those days.
Yeah.
I just didn't know when, but I knew it was coming. And now you know what I mean? And you're just looking back and going, that I did too much work. They were awesome in the weight room. Their numbers look great. But now we get into spring practice and we got a buttload of hamstring and groin issues. So how great was the weight room?
Yeah. But you got to be able to check your own ego to be able to look at that.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people won't do that.
Yes. You got to be able to look at yourself and be like, oops.
Yeah.
Okay. What's this?
Yeah.
You know, and then you go back and you look at it and you're like, all right, I was missing this. I did too much of this. I missed that. And you go back and you look at old programs where you had really good success. Like, what happened? Where did it change? What did I do? What fad did I come across that I thought was the next step in hamstring development or whatever it is? And the answers are all there if you take notes and you write your programs down and you keep them and you like, I have all my programs, and then under each day I have a spot for notes. And so it's a nightmare to, like, you guys could figure it out. But if someone just looks at it, it's like, you know, week 1 is written in black and week 2 is written in blue and week 3 is written in red. And so when I look at it, I know exactly what it means. So you go back after 5, 6, 7, 8 years of this and you can see, like, why did I get away from this? Like, what happened? What was I thinking? What were my goals? What was the team? Was I dealing with an older team? Was I dealing with a really young team? Is there a reason why I did more volume? Did coach want the kids to be, you know what I'm saying? There's always the answer's always there. You have to be willing to go back and look at it and go, oops, screwed that one up, you know? And then how do you go forward from there? What am I missing out? You know what I mean?
When do you check and see that? After the season or after the year?
I do it after the first semester, usually. So it would be, for me, I always had football, and then if I had other sports at Morehead, it was a spring sport. So I'd look in at this time of year, I'd go back and look at what we did. We'd get an injury report every day. I'd get an injury report, and I'd just save them all. And it's like, all right, we had X number of hamstring. You always have a few injuries that are just, this is what you get in football. This is what you get in softball and baseball, right? So you go back and you look, and you're just like, okay. So you kind of know what you're going to run into. And then how big's the injury report? Was it the older kids that played a lot that had more injuries, or was it some of the redshirt younger kids that were maybe on the scout team and didn't play as much on game day, but maybe got banged up in practice, for instance? And
You want to hear something funny?
does it make sense?
We had
So I would do that twice a year.
we never had like an injury bug or anything, but when we try to run the spread, we had more injuries because the kids were more fatigued. We went to ball control, old school smash mouth football. We controlled the ball. The kids ran significantly less plays. And so I think sometimes we take a little more responsibility, and I think that's important that you take responsibility, but it's not always your fault. Because from the outside looking in, you'd say, well, shit, what did they do in the weight room that caused all these issues, when the reality it was the play calling?
Yeah.
That's fucking weird. Like, you'd never associate that. But so then why is everyone feeling okay now? And that was the only change that we made. So I think the injury thing, especially in a very violent sport like that, is very hard to diagnose. what's good and what's bad. And, you have people who are more prone to stuff, maybe in a baseball or something. I don't know. It's so complicated. There's so many things. And I found out that if you just try to hit all the angles within reason, try to build some muscles and don't overload the kids. There's injuries are going to happen. And I always tell the kids it's an honor to get injured on the field. It's like dying in battle. Like you died for your brothers. It's awesome, man. Yeah. There's no shame in that. But I think the injury thing, it gets a little thrown on the strength coach, and maybe sometimes it's appropriate, but I think it's like getting mad at your drill sergeant for getting wounded in war. It's like, dude, there's shit flying everywhere.
No, it is funny now that you're saying this because
it's like how, I don't know. I think we take a little more responsibility than we probably should. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have responsibility. I just think it's so chaotic out there. You get,
can't predict chaos.
Like you get a kid's got a knee injury and it's like, well, what happened? We got rolled from behind. A guy came up from behind and the lineman, fell on him weird and he twisted. Like, what are you going to do?
Yep. So what's interesting to me is listening to this and looking on another end of the spectrum, which would be the strength sports, bodybuilding, powerlifting, all these people that are training for meets and stuff like that. When things aren't going the way they're supposed to, the first thing a coach or a mentor or anybody's going to say is, what are you doing outside of the weight room? Yeah. Are you sleeping? Are you eating? So then they don't point to the program. They point to what's happening outside. Mm-hmm. But in your case, they point to the program.
Yeah, you become, they go right to the, and we've noticed, as an example, we have very few concussions. I think we maybe had 2 over the last 3 years. And people are like, what do you guys do? And I'm like, well, we do this and do that. I'm like, we also never fatigued. Not never fatigued, but we don't, because when you're fatigued, where does your head go? Your head goes down.
Yeah.
And obviously you have to teach them how to tackle and stuff like that. But I'm like, that's a huge thing. I think that's a massive thing. Besides doing, trap work and neck work, but everyone's doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So I always think about some of that.
So we had found with our
it's much bigger than RDLs.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that. It's not gonna. I don't know. And the older you get, you just kind of realize you got some. You have a few things like everyone runs, everyone squats. You just try and do those things really well in an appropriate manner, and then the kids got to play. Parents got to give us better athletes. I always think why didn't you win? It's like, well, dude, you got to breed better. Yeah. It's not just me. Yeah. And but I think I've kind of come to terms with that. You got to take responsibility, but at some point you got to let go a little bit. And because it's not, you're just going to wallow in that, and not everything's your fault. And I'm certainly not going to start pointing fingers either. But I don't know. It's gotten to the point where I don't really stress about the training so much anymore. I know this sounds really bad because I know how to get the kids better. I know the principles we need to do. I've noticed if the kids follow along, holy cow, do they get better. And then it just becomes kind of managing fatigue and stuff and making sure their attitudes are good. And when I did the last Swiss talk, I said there's 5 reasons. I don't know what the fuck how many were, but one of the most important thing that we did is our coaches, our sport coaches, put an offense and defense in place that allows our kids to succeed. That's the number one thing. It's you can tell us because we push the prowler and we do all these squats and all that shit, but the coaches do a great job of saying, listen, we can do X, Y, and Z. We can't do A, B, and C, so we're not doing A, B, and C. Let's put the kids in the position to win. Let's run the offense and defense that we can run and let the chips fall where they may. And, we've been incredibly successful with that. And I'm always surprised. I'll talk to you after this, Rhodes, off camera. Yeah. How many people want to change the formula?
Yeah, when it works too.
There's Apple means hey, we're gotten to 12 wins a year. We need to get to 15. How do we do that? Maybe we need to make massive changes. The issue I have is a lot of times when you do that, you go right down to 2 wins. And so I think sometimes, I believe that you should always be trying to get better, but don't take for granted all the success that you've had and how you've gotten there. And I think that's super important. I really do. And I always, this is kind of a tangent, but we don't do a great job marketing. I'm not really on social media and stuff, but I'm comfortable with what we've done because I'm comfortable doing what I do. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be in the public eye and doing all that stuff. It's just really not for me. And so I've accepted my limitations, and my lifestyle has, I've adjusted my lifestyle accordingly. So, I don't know. That's a whole nother ball game. But I'll never forget, this is random. Rob Lowe said, why would you want to be famous now? What's the point? Because you're under a microscope all the time. He's like, back in the day, it was awesome. Like, you got to do everything.
Oh, yeah, I get, yeah.
Like, now, like, what's the point? I'd rather just be rich. Why would you want to be famous? So anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point being is, I think the coaching comes more into play than people think, way more into play. And allowing the kids to succeed is a huge thing. So there you go.
And I think on that, I think it's the coach ego.
Yeah,
I want to run this.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have kids that can run this. So, you don't have a quarterback that could hit the side of a barn or a wideout that could catch a cold. Why in God's name are you running 4 wides?
There was a local, there was a local high school in Chicago, Catholic private high school, that they had. So it was Catholic's high school. Didn't have a ton of great athletes on their team, but they had this is the basketball team. So they lived and died out by the 3. They had no one big, like no one was over 6 foot, bunch of wiry white kids, and they perfected the fast break, getting the ball down, and they just drained threes. Now, some games they'd score like 80, 90 points. Other games, like 32, 30 points. But they said this allows us to win. And they won a ton. When they were on, it was awesome. And but they knew running a traditional offense the way that it used to be with 2 forwards, a big man, and 2 guards or something.
Wasn't going to work with what they had.
Like, they would never do it. And dude, it was so much fun watching these kids because they knew exactly where to be at all times, and they would just they just said, "Listen, we're going to shoot. We hopefully will have like a 30% shooting, so we're just going to shoot 400. Which the whole goal is to get down there as quick as possible."
Yeah, well, it's a little bit like the academies in football.
Yeah,
they're not going to thrive running a spread because of the people that they have, so they run those systems that work.
I didn't want to watch basketball when I was in high school, but man, I couldn't wait to watch those kids. It was so much fun. Just the precision, just like it was a Catholic school, so every time they shot, they all prayed. It's about that's what they needed. So I think that's super important. I think that gets lost in all this stuff. And I don't know. And we always, I remember Dave saying all the time, like, magically the kids, the teams that have the best recruits have the best strength coaches, right? Because they win all the time.
Yeah.
And it was always, whenever we go to like those NSCA or the CSCCA conferences, whoever won the national championship that year, that strength coach came up there and was like, detailing his workout. I'm like, I'm not sure. I remember watching one of those. I won't name the coach or the school. And I'm like, this is the worst workout I've ever seen. It's like 25 exercises. I
know what you're talking about.
What are you doing in here? How long are you guys in here for?
Yeah, you're trying to run the math in your head.
And how
I know what you're talking about.
How much are you?
And they're like, it's all tempoed. 5 seconds down, dude. That takes like 8 hours.
Yeah.
You're doing 300 sets.
It's like, if you're doing 20 exercises, how much?
Yeah. Well,
how focused are those kids after 3 exercises, right? So are they really doing that?
No, they're not.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and the point is, it's not being done. They just got better athletes than the next guy. Doesn't mean that they don't need it. Doesn't mean that those kids don't work hard. Doesn't mean that the strength coach is bad. It just says magically when we had better kids at London, we won more games. So
and there's when you have a lot of sophomores playing, probably not going to be very good.
Yep.
When you have a lot of juniors and seniors playing, you're probably going to be pretty good in high school. And it's you can see it. Like, I saw it in our football team. You can see it in our basketball teams and stuff. I don't know them well yet because I've only been here for half a semester.
Yeah.
But it's like there's something to it. Well,
losing can be contagious too.
Yes.
Dave, winning takes years.
Yes.
Losing takes
And
to build the culture takes a long, slow, horrible, shitty road.
yeah.
Losing, well, you just have 1 year and you'll lose everything.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean losing games so much as losing the attitude. Does that make sense? Like you can still be 5-5 and have a kick-ass program. The kids, maybe that's overachieving for them. But I think that loser kind of culture, loser attitude, I think is horribly contagious, like you said, and it takes a very short amount of time to infect everything.
Yeah.
And I think I look at some of the places I've been that have won and have lost, and I'm like, man, they need to clean house. And I'm not just talking about coaches. I'm talking ADs. They need to get everything, all that stink out of there, man. So.
And it's funny, the dress part of mine is like kids will come, and it is a little weird, but like the kids will come in the weight room wearing red. We're orange and black, so you can throw white and gray in there. So you come in the weight room and you're wearing another high school's,
maybe charcoal, but whatever.
but you're wearing another high school's t-shirt. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously? Like, that's how low you think of your school, that you're going to wear another team's t-shirt in there? Like, that boggles my mind. Like, no wonder why you suck. Like, you don't even have enough pride in what.
The one thing
you know?
I think I had to learn is I'm applying 47 years old, for 47 years of maturity to a 16 or 15, 17-year-old kid. And I had to take a massive step back with that.
Yeah.
And understand that them showing up every day and trying to do their best is sometimes really awesome. Yeah. Like, I think we have these David Goggins-like visions of discipline and maturity and overcoming injuries. It's like, well, the kids need to learn too. I was a shitbag in those days. I was a shitbag 15 years ago. I was a horrible person compared to how I am today. So I think that's another thing I had to really. That doesn't mean I don't bitch and moan in my head sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think that's super important to understand that these kids are learning their way, and I always I'll give a kid a couple chances, and I don't mean like maybe he has a bad attitude. If he constantly quits and is just a dirtbag, there's only so much I can handle. But if the kid's willing to show up and sometime, most of the time, it's going to click, and those kids they're like, oh, like I had a kid the other day who finally figured something out, and I went up to him. I'm like, man, that was the best I've seen you trap bar deadlift. I'm super proud of you. And he's like, really? And it had nothing to do with him holding his back in position, because when I coached him to do it, he did it, and when I didn't coach him, he didn't do it. So this time he did it on his own, and it was like a huge win for me. I was like, now now I know you're capable of not just me screaming at you to get your shit right. You can do it on yourself, and it just takes time. So
Well, I think a lot of these words are general. Like, if you have discipline, consistency, hard work, or all these make sense to everybody. They're general words, but if I'm talking to somebody about training, volume's also a very general word, right? But some people define it as sets times reps. That's how I would, or sets times reps times weight is workload. So we have to agree on what volume means, okay? So with consistency, you got a 47-year-old and a 16-year-old. You have to agree on what that means, right? A 16-year-old consistency might mean once a week, because they've never done anything more than once a week.
You're right.
So twice a week to them is a fucking PR.
Yes.
So that would be, so now when people throw these words out like hard work, well, they only know as hard as they've ever worked. And that may be very, very low. But if they do just a little bit more than that, very, very low, that's a PR for them. So a lot of, like you said, with the Goggin stuff and all this other stuff, it's a broad stroke that makes a lot of assumptions.
Yeah. Like, you're not going to get to that level without failing a lot and without being having a lot of grinding through a lot of horrible shit in your life. So, and some of these kids, man, they've been through some bad stuff already. It's horrible when you hear how their families are and stuff like that. So, and I'm always amazed. I know a couple kids who have some horrible situations, and they come in, and I don't say anything to them. I'm like, sucks about your dad being a fucking heroin addict. But I'm like, the kid had a big smile on his face. I'm like, man, holy shit, dude, you're stronger than you think.
Well, see, that would be the reverse of what I say is what you learn in the weight room applies to life. For them, they need to take what they've learned in life and apply it to the weight room.
Now, those kids are rare.
Yeah.
And that's not a character flaw. It's just, it's tough. So. And we have to have a good set of standards. For example, like maybe consistencies 1 day a week. Well, that's just not going to cut it here.
Yeah.
So you have to have good set of standards to begin with. And I think from there, we allow them the opportunity to build on that with the framework, with how we train and how we play football and stuff like that. And I think it just builds up over time. Just like I constantly tell people, like, my whole goal is to get those kids to have constant success so they build the self-esteem. Self-esteem is not built by telling you're a piece of shit, and, like break you down to build you up. That's not how it works. I think and I don't even think that was really done in the military up until the draft era in Vietnam, because they wanted to whittle some of the horrible people out. At least that's what I read. But I think I want to give the kids a chance at success all the time, and I think it's done wonders. So, but who knows? Maybe I just have really good athletes, and maybe I'm part of that shit too. So, I don't know. It's been a massive learning experience because I got kids too, and I've seen them. My oldest son, within like 6 months, went from 0 to 10. Just in personality and discipline change. I'm like, holy cow. And so it's like, it's hard to know when it's going to happen. Some kids got it when they're in 6th grade, and some kids get it when they're 22. It's like, as long as they get it at some point, especially you want to get them before they're, 45.
Or before they fuck up so bad.
Yeah, that they'll never, get back. So, yeah. I know. I'm just trying to make the world a better place, Dave. That's all I'm trying to do. That, and, we don't lose the sight of the running the ball and beating the shit out of people. That's I'm telling you, that's still essential to me. So hopefully Rhodes over here will be able to tell his head coach to.
Well, he's got multiple head coaches. It's a different situation.
But football is the only thing that matters. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? Because there are multiple coaches.
I think so far I've been very lucky. As far as they're like, all right, this is your job, go do it. I think they're all happy that that's off their plate. So far, I think it's good. At
this point, they're solid. Just wait till they get used to it. And
there's a couple that they say they buy in. That you can tell they don't. You got a couple that definitely know more than I do because they've like.
Their uncle watched, bench 405 one time.
Someone sent me a video of a gorgeous woman in yoga pants and a sports bra doing an ab workout, and it's like, it's an amazing workout. I'm like, have you done the ab wheel for 5 sets of 10? Have you hung on a chin-up bar and touched your feet to the bar like that? Have you carried 225 pounds on a farmer's carry like that? Like, she did crunches. And leg, like weird stuff like that. It's like, just coach your kids. I'll handle this. And then they meant well, but at a certain, it's like, stay in your lane, dude. Like, but I haven't had any issues yet, to my knowledge. I think they're still happy that they don't have to think about it. And, like when our summer schedule comes up, I had an email chain of I don't know how many coaches telling me what they want their summer lifting schedule to be like. And I'm going to be like, I'm going to tell you what my schedule is. That's how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Like we're going to show up on these days, and I'm going to figure that out with, like what are feasible days that are realistic, because kids play other sports and they might play club volleyball and club softball, and you have to take that into account. Right? At the end of the day, I don't care about the club sports, but I have to take that into account. I care about the school. But you have to take that into account because that kid might be doing that club sport because that's going to help them maybe get that college scholarship or something. And maybe that's their passion. Great. But it's like, here's what we're going to do. This is the time we're going to do it at. They're going to show up or they're not. But this is what when that comes out, there's going to be a little, this is what we're used to. Well, now you have someone to handle this stuff. So now you have to consider my schedule. I have to consider your schedule. I have to be I have to compromise a little bit. You have to compromise a little bit if we truly want the end result, which is for me, it's, I want those kids to win state championships and go to the playoffs. I want that, but that's not my goal. That's the coach's goal.
Yeah.
My goal is to prepare the kids to be able to do that. So I want to teach them well in the weight room, and I want to teach them to schedule and all that stuff.
Well, it sounds like your summer is going to go back to how you were when you were coaching in college.
Which was really easy, actually.
How so? Because now you're going to have 3 different times spread out throughout the day, I assume. No.
Nope, back to back.
How so?
Football is going to, in my world right now, going to go at 6 to like 7:30.
Okay.
All the guys that play other sports other than football are going to go 7:30 to, call it 9.
Yeah.
And then all the girls are going to go here or whatever. Like that's in my head. That's how I want to start it. And it may tweak and change from there, but like here's what we're doing. On Monday, we're going to squat. On Wednesday, we're going to bench. On Friday, we're going to trap bar deadlift. We can't go on Fridays because a ton of kids have weekend. They're not going to be here because they have club teams. Okay,
Yeah.
Now we're going to go Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday, we're going to run. Friday, everybody who's in town is going to run. There you go. That's what it is. Period. Tell them to show up.
Yeah, that works.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm still trying to iron out. And then I'll present it. And I'll present it to my bosses first. And if they say yes, then I'll, all right, here's what's happening, guys. And I have an insane amount of support that I'm not used to. From administration to superintendent to principal, all that.
Well, you're still in the dating phase.
Yes. Yes. And what I'm hearing is people are happy.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that kids can, they like me. Therefore, the parents do. If the kids hate me, the parents are going to hate me. It's, simple math. But if your kid's coming home and like, oh my God, strength and conditioning, so fun. Parents are like, all right, cool. Not that they don't care, but they're like, okay, like maybe this is one thing I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. Going back to the awesome ab workout. Do either one of you guys, do you have parents that get a hold of you that used to bench 400 back in the day that think they know what to do better than you do?
I have run into it with one person, and I just kind of let them talk and then proceeded to talk about what I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to, I don't know that they mean well, but I don't know them well enough. We don't have a good enough relationship. I need to dig a little deeper and like, hey, is this a common thing with the sport coach? Is this a common thing? Like, I need to know more of that before I say anything. So I just kind of let them burn themselves out. And I'm like, yeah, this is what we do. Well, what about this? And what about that? Okay. Yeah. So we're going to squat on Monday. We're going to bench on Wednesday. We're going to trap bar on Friday.
Yeah.
And, we're going to, and it just, because I don't know enough yet to have that conversation. Because I have to, in my mind, I have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they truly care about their kid. And that's why they're, and if other information comes up that it changes it, well, I'll address it if I have to. It's not something I want to address. I don't want to have those.
No, but what you're doing is you're taking your emotions out of it to listen to what this person is.
Yeah.
Because the intentions are probably good.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where, a younger you may have not taken your emotions out of that.
Absolutely not. How
like,
dare you tell me how to do my job? I'm Matt Rhodes,
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
it's like, they hired me for a reason. I know what I'm doing.
I can't believe I used to care about stuff like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally,
Yeah.
100%.
But I also bench 675. So.
Yeah.
I only bench 605. So, but yeah, it's. I'm sure it's coming. But I think for me, what my goal is to build a relationship with the kids, because the kids are the administrators that hire me are gonna talk to the kids and see what the kids have to think.
Well, the kids are going to talk to the parents, and the parents will talk to the administrators and stuff like that. That's how it works.
It's not that I don't care about the parents. I don't think I'm at that point yet. I still need these kids to understand where I'm coming from, the standards I have for them are for their benefit, that I do care about them. You know, I still think I have to build that first. And then the next step, let's say with the parents, if that comes, is going to be a heck of a lot easier if most of the kids are like, yeah, I love this class. And if more kids start signing up. And, you know, like it was an awesome experience, because one of the big issues was that we were going to have boys and girls in the same class, which, by the way, I don't call them boys and girls. I call them men and women, even though technically by law they're boys and girls, because that's what's next. They're going to be adults soon. So we start treating them that way. But anyway, so a mother came up to me, and she was so funny. She's like,
Dudes and bitches. Yeah. That's how I call it.
she's like, apparently they got a ton of emails complaining about how things were going to be run. I had no idea. No one told me. I'm glad they didn't. But she's like, I did not want you here. And she wasn't mean about it. She's like, I didn't want you here. I told this person and that person and that person. And she's like, my daughter, I don't know why she likes you, but she likes you, so I'm glad you're here. I was like, huh, cool.
Did she express why she didn't want you there?
Probably. I think a big part
I was thinking
of it,
about killing her.
it was mostly, I
How
think
to
it was
hide her body.
mostly, I think it was mostly the parents that had girls being worried about the boys and girls potentially in the same class with flirting and you know, all that stuff, which I haven't seen. The girls are like, okay, we're going to work out over here, and the guys are over here. Like they're really there to work. And I expected a little bit of that. I've got none of the weird flirty stuff. It's been like the kids are there, and they're working. I think that was probably the main concern is, you know, well, what are they going to be allowed to wear in there? Like, they're not wearing tank tops and sports bras, and the guys are going to have their shirts on, and they're going to have sleeves on. Like, you know, they're going to have long sleeve shirts, and they're going to have shorts that cover them. I think that was part of it. And I'm sure there are still parents that are freaked out about that. I can only imagine, but I'm not seeing that weird, you know, creepy guy looking at the girls kind of thing. I'm not seeing any of that, you know, because that's really what it's going to be. It's going to be the creepy kid looking at the girls.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any of that. Girls are doing their thing. Guys are doing
Well,
their
it's
thing.
easy to handle if you see it.
Yes.
It's not, I mean, that's something that you can put into real fast and it stops.
Yes. Yes. So, but I haven't seen, has it happened? Probably.
Yeah.
But it's so minuscule that it's not even on the radar. It's on my radar because it's something I look for, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
So I think the kids are handling it really, really well. And that's also part of why in the summertime I want to split them up a little bit too. It's like all the guys, all the girls. Get your little potential college experience if you're going to go on to do that. But in the classroom, we don't have the ability to decide that odd periods are going to be all the girls and even periods are going to be all. We don't have that ability. So this is what it is. If you don't want your kid in a class, don't sign them up. Simple. Problem solved. Deal with it on your, like, that's now your problem. But I'm not seeing that.
What metrics are you using to see if to track if they're getting better?
Right now, it's just the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. And
Trap bar.
Trap bar, yeah. Right now, it's just that. I want to get those jump mats.
Yeah.
Because the vertical jump translates across all sports. It's power. And every sport is a power sport. So if their vertical goes up, I bet they run a little faster. I bet their squat went up too. You know, if they jump higher, they probably change direction better. They probably do all the things you need to do better. And if you're looking at football, baseball, softball, basketball, wrestling, that's one thing that can be measured. Is it the perfect thing for every sport? Probably not, but it is a universal measurement of power.
You should do, Rhodes, is there's something called the power index.
Yes.
You take the square root of their body weight and multiply it by the square root of their vertical jump, and that gives you the more explosive power output. Yeah. And those vertical jump mats are wonderful because the old Vertec is fun.
It takes forever.
Dude, you got to have everyone on there doing that.
Yep. So that's one thing I wanted. That'll be the next thing I add in. You know, and someone's like, hey, you're going to do 40s? No, because basketball doesn't run 40s. Baseball doesn't run 40s. So we're not doing 40s. I'm not doing this for football. Like I have to consider everybody. And so I know if I do the vertical, is it perfect? No. But I can measure strength with the squat and the deadlift, and I can measure power with the vertical. And that's athletic performance.
So how do you deal with the factor of the in season or whatever, the preseason for a coach? So you got the football players that are running their ass off, the wrestlers that are obviously going to be training their ass off for whatever that time period is, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or whatever. That is going to hit during the school year, in different phases, do the coaches have to tell you what they're doing so you can adjust, or you just have to assume they're beating the shit out of the kids for the next 2 weeks?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I think there will come a time when I've got what I'm doing so simplified and understood that then I can say, here's this, here's the adjustment I'm going to make, during preseason or whatever. But when they're in the class during the school day, I can't run multiple programs with multiple teams. Like, you can't do that. Not with one person. If this kid's running this, this team's running this, and this team's running it, you can't. It's hard enough to keep track of.
Well, the difference is you're conditioning them year round, where they really don't need a 3-week blitz to get them in shape.
Yes.
There you go, Dave.
Yeah, and that's a big part.
But do they understand that? Because you see what can potentially happen.
I was waiting for this.
Yeah. And that'll be a discussion. That's why the summer is so important. That's why it's so important that if your kids don't take the class and you don't feel like doing the lift that you're supposed to do on Wednesday because you had a tough practice and you don't think they should do it, I don't care what you think. This is what everybody's doing. You need to do this kind of thing. And that's part of the process that we're trying to iron out. So I'm giving a lot of leeway because I've been here for a semester.
Yeah, but you know how this works in like track and football and wrestling, pretty much every sport, I'm sure. So they're going to have to taper this shit down, or their athletes are going to suck.
Yes. So that's part of the.
I think that's one of the best things we do as a football program. Yeah. Is we manage their fatigue better than I think the majority of high school.
Yes.
And but that's when you're talking about wrestling, like Dave and I, like that's a pound to fuck yourself into the ground is better than nothing. It's better than anything. I'd rather train like that than train optimally. That's how the wrestlers are. So it's very difficult. But I work with wrestlers too. But the kids I work with the wrestling, they're already been in the program a little bit, so I give them options, and they know like they don't have to do everything. But the hardest thing was getting the head wasn't the hardest thing. It was getting Kyle totally on board, and this was all his call. Was listen, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do 2-a-days anymore. What's the fucking point? Yep.
2-a-days were for when you didn't train the whole summer.
Yeah.
Like when we were in high school. Like most of the kids didn't, so you had to rush into shape. You don't have to do that anymore.
No. So
there's no reason to have 3-hour practices when you can have your hands on the kids. After every lift, the kids go out and they run routes, or they do this, or they shoot their free throws, and there's no reason for it, because that's what that stuff takes care of. So preseason shouldn't be any harder than a normal practice, other than maybe mentally because you're installing stuff, stuff like that. But physically,
it shouldn't be basic training.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. If you can't do it in 90 minutes, you suck as a coach. Like, you're doing too much, or you're not efficient with what you're doing.
No, but you're gonna be trying. How long have these coaches been there? I mean, say some of them have been there for years. You're going to try to change something that's so ingrained in them.
You just hope for them.
You know what they need to do, Dave? They need to lose horribly.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, nothing gets done if you're 5-5. They need to have a 1-9 year to be like, holy shit, I got to make changes. Losing is a gift sometimes if you learn from it. So
if you drop your ego and realize like what I'm doing may have worked. And I think Nick Saban's one of the best at that.
Yep.
At adapting to what
the
changes.
The landscape had changed drastically, and he changed along with it.
Yes.
And not just changed it, he did it better.
Yeah, you know, and it's being able to say, well, I want to run this. My kids don't allow me to run this. I'm a spread guy. Well, your linemen can't pass set, but they're big and they can get in the way of somebody on run block, you know, whatever. I've got a ton of great athletes, and they couldn't catch a cold if you threw a ball to them. But if you put it in their gut, they're amazing with it. Why are we throwing screen passes to kids that run 7 flat 40s when you could put them in the eye and blast them downhill and you still get the ball in that kid's hand, for instance, you know? And so, you know, it's like, I want to be a home run baseball team. Well, kids are 140 pounds. They can't hit the ball past home plate. Might want to work on, what do they call that, small ball? Like, maybe we want to be really good at that, you know, instead of trying to be what you're not. And that's an ego. It's an ego shot to the coach of like, I want to be this. Well, you ain't going to be that.
I would say
it's putting a square peg in a round hole.
The vast majority of teams that I see that we play against put their kids in situations that they have no business being in. The vast
because
majority.
the system looks cool. You know,
and
I want to be a 3-4 team, but
I'll
you
never
have
forget
4 3D linemen. It's like
a couple years ago, one of the freshmen during the game went up to me and said, "Hey, coach, why are they doing like with this? They can't even do it." And I'm like,
No, but that can play to your advantage if you're playing against.
Well, they're never going to change, Dave.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I'm not saying that as totally negative, but the majority of coaches aren't going to change that. They're going to, they'd rather.
It looks awesome on the board.
They'd rather die. You know, it's a hill they're willing to die on, and that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that because we're doing our thing, and that's like, it's funny because if you think about that idea of putting your kids in the best possible position to succeed, it's very simple. So if you just do that, you're going to be better than the average team. Just by being a little smarter about it, and you don't have to throw everything away. You just have to alter stuff.
Well, that doesn't mean it's easier either.
No, it's not, because sometimes you got to learn some really new stuff, and
that's a challenge on you.
You have to hire someone that you're going to have to give them some power.
Well, if the skills are here, but then you just have to focus here, they need to master here.
Yes.
Which is way harder than being average at all this, right? So it sounds simple.
Yes.
But it's actually way harder.
Yeah, and the kids got to buy in, and the parents have to kind of buy in. But that's a whole nother ballgame. That's kind of out of your control, too, in a way.
Well, it seems like the lower is probably a bad word.
I know what you're saying.
The lower you get in the strength conditioning chain, the more people you need to listen to. Whereas, let's say you're the strength coach for an NFL team. You got one person to listen to, maybe the athletes, but basically.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
Now at this level, you got parents,
more voices.
You got all these voices, and actually the voices all have a little bit more power than what they do up there.
They're children, not adults. So you have to pay. You have to.
So you just went from an athletic director and the athletes, right, and the coaches, to the athletic director, the athletes,
and
the coaches,
parents.
Other teachers, other parents, and it just spread, so there's more.
Yeah. And I think for the most part, everyone's intention is good. Obviously you have your bad apples, but generally speaking, parents want what's best for their kids. Like, no kidding, right? Mm-hmm. But then at a certain point, it's like, okay, you got hired for this. Like, let's hope you do well, like do you want me to come to your house and tell you how to raise your kids? Because I got some ideas. For some of you, I got some ideas. Do you want me to walk into your place of business and tell you how to do your business? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Stay out of my world. I know more than you do. Mm-hmm. I definitely know more than you do. I've watched more YouTube videos than you have, guaranteed. You know what I mean? Guaranteed. Which is super arrogant, but it's the truth. I wouldn't step into your world and tell you how to run this business just because I bought some stuff from you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, communication's obviously vital as being a strength coach, but to me, it seems that the communication skills are even more needed at the lower levels than at the higher levels. So
because there's more.
So in a fucked up way,
more ears to talk to.
The high school would be the last place you would want to start if you just
probably
came out of college and were to work in the industry.
Because you would end up being, let's say you're a 25-year-old kid or a 26-year-old kid, you're probably going to be the only one.
Well, if you're an assistant at TCU, like a GA, you only have one boss, and that's the head guy, maybe the assistant guy. So the lower you are in the rungs, you only have to answer to one boss. Now that head guy's got to answer to a lot of people.
Yes.
So I think that's how you learn. Like, listen, we're going to start you answering to one guy, and then as you grow up and mature, then you'll have to have more responsibility. It's nothing different. The only big difference is in high school, it's much more personal in a good way, meaning for the most part, all the interactions with the athletes and the parents, it's much more, hey, you're in our community. I don't really want to burn your house down. Most of the time, now, I've never had any negative experiences, but most of the time, because you're within the community, they're not going to try and be a dick to you for the most part. I'm not saying, other places obviously might be different. So I think while you may have more voices, generally the voices are a little nicer because they know the repercussions. It's like talking shit online. And you can do it all day from your computer, but face to face, it's going to be a little different. I think it's a little more personal. Whereas once you get to the NFL, now you have, some guy on ESPN calling you out, and you're like, you've never even shown up here. Like, how do you know what's going on? So I think there's a little bit of it's a much different than just more voices. The voices are generally a little kinder, so to speak. So, yeah. I've never had any issues with any parents. They've always been absolutely supportive. And I try not to give them any reason to hate me. Or I'm not saying that they all like me. I'm sure, obviously. But I've never put myself in a situation, that would, like, I'm terrified of girls in the weight room.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, I just don't want to put myself in that situation. So even when I worked with some girls, I always made sure there's people around. Like, I just what's the point? I'm not going to, lose my family and my job by doing something stupid, or not even doing something stupid, making a situation poor. So, and I think it's a testament to the head coach, because he put his foot down. It's a testament to the community of being supportive. And I think coming from a small town, everyone's got the parents all have a hand in it. They're all helping out. The moms and are making the dinners and the lunches and stuff, and they're putting everything together and coordinating all the T-shirts and stuff like that. So I think once you get involved, you're like, oh, okay, it's not all perfect. Like, I'm going to screw up too. Yeah. So it's, the stakes are higher at the higher level. I mean, the NFL, every team is pretty much $1 billion entity. I mean, you don't get to screw up, So high school, it's just, I just don't think it's a good place to start for a strength coach. I think you got to work under someone who knows what they're doing, who can show you the ropes, who you can learn from. And that's generally how everyone does it. At least maybe not nowadays, but that's how it was.
Like when I came back in at 36, I could not have done what I'm doing right now.
No.
I didn't have I probably had the X's and O's knowledge to some degree, but I didn't have the interpersonal skills, the patience, I don't think I could have done this 10 years ago. I needed that experience.
Yeah, I always laugh. People ask all the time, like, how do you deal with criticism online? I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't care. Yeah. But, man, 20 years ago, you and I, Dave,
it's
Dave,
different.
Can you believe what they fucking said? And it's like, whatever.
Well, there was so much, too, though, that I think it was a gift because it made us calloused.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. It's just go about your day. And so I think that in a fucked up way, everybody should probably get calloused.
Dude, you got to eat some shit. You got to eat a big shit burger every once in a while.
Otherwise, all these little things are going to drive people absolutely insane, which you have no control over. And they do. It wrecks people. I'm like, well, if you had 1,000 of those instead of just 3, you would
Yes.
you wouldn't see those three the same way.
Vincent said something to me. I think I've said this on here before, but Vincent said something back in the early days of the internet when you took me on here, and Rhodes sucks, this, that, and I was so mad about it. I took it so personally, and I was pissing and moaning one day at the gym, and Vincent's like, "Dude, what are you mad about?" He's like, "You made it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
He's like, "They know who you are.
Yeah.
You don't know who they are. They know who you are, and they're talking trash. You made it." And it really helped me be like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. If you're not good, no one talks about you."
Yeah.
You know, not that I was great, but I was good enough.
I still think people need to go through it to be able to get callous to it. You know, we can
100%
tell them,
agree with you. Yes.
You know, we can tell them to avoid it, don't take it personal and all this, and they still will.
I still did. I still did, but it was easier for me to like
First of all,
walk away from some of that stuff.
It's completely human and correct to take it personal because especially with something that you love to do, I think it's important that you take it personal. The key is you take it personal and just let it go. That's the real thing. It's not about not caring. It's like it's a little different than that. And if someone said I'm a bad guitar player, I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't practice much. But if someone says, you know, I'm a bad strength coach, I'm a bad father, I'll take that shit like that. You know, I'm not. Like I know I care about it and I work very hard at it. You don't get to tell me that. So there's still like, it's good to feel a little because it is personal. You know, the key is on the greatest story I ever heard about with the great Dr. Ken Leisner. Someone had pointed out that Dr. Ken say, "Hey, someone's talking trash about you online." In his mind, it was someone he worked with, right? He didn't know, he just fucking know. And he's like, "Well, who is it?" He's like, "Well, it's this guy." You know, show him the forum. And he's like, "Well, what's his name?" It's, you know, Deep Squatter 38. And he's like, "What the fuck is this guy?" And he's like, "Well, you know," he's like, "Well, how would he know?" But it was like a true, like, I don't know, why do you? And it was like so that was still, I love that story. Dr. Ken didn't even tell me this. It was someone else that worked with Dr. Ken. I laughed so hard because I got to I got to talk to Dr. Ken a lot at Elite when I was working here. And boy, he was, whether or not you liked him, like his training style, he was a wealth of information that sadly is gone. And boy, he would tell stories, and he's got that thick Long Island accent. And I talked to him for hours, and boy, did he grow up poor. He grew up hard. I mean, hard. Like he's like, people don't even know what poor is these days. And he told me something. I'm like, oh my God, he won't even drink coffee. That's the only way. His parents gave everyone coffee to dip their stale bread in. That's why he can't drink coffee. He's like, it just reminds me of being poor. And I was like, God, imagine not being able to drink a cup of coffee in the morning. That's how bad it was. Yeah. You know, so imagine giving an 8-year-old a cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. That's get him stimulated so he doesn't know how bad it is.
That's right. Cuts your appetite. I hear stories about that in rural China. They give the kids cigarettes, cut their appetite down because they have no food. It's like you see a little 8-year-old puffing a butt, and you're like, all right.
We're sitting there thinking, how's he afford the cigarettes?
That's right. It's a tight rolled cigarette. All right. Kid's got it. Got those small fingers.
Well, with the athletes, you're trying to teach them how to learn from their losses, right? You know, as a kids, we're trying to teach them to learn from adversity. You know, so if you're a person that's taking this criticism and you're losing your mind about it, then you're not practicing what you're trying to coach or teach.
Yes.
You know, at the same time, you should, like you said, you should take it in, you know, because maybe there's some truth in it.
Yes.
You know, if you just are honest, but you can't take a loss and not look at it or have a bad season.
And you've got to grow from it. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying to read every single criticism thing because that's bullshit. But if the same reoccurring thing keeps coming up over and over
maybe
and over
there's
and
something
over
to
and over,
it.
there might be, you know, something kind of to that. And you got to be the example for the people that you're trying to teach those values to. Otherwise, what the fuck are you doing? You know, and I think if a lot of coaches and trainers and stuff would actually think about that for a minute, you know, then they would react differently. I think mentally you can still react however you want, you know, but it's how you, your actions, you know, that need to be different for a lot of them. Any advice that you have for any coaches that are going to do what you just did?
What I just did?
Go from the college level to the high school level.
I think.
What did you not think was going to...
Come on, Rhodes. You already told me this yesterday, you dumb shit.
What did I tell you? I might have been lying to you. Oh, the simplicity.
Well, it's the big issue was he had kids who were so undertrained and so raw, so to speak, that he had to take many steps back in getting those kids ready to train.
Yeah.
So most of the kids who came into college were already fairly good athletes, had at least some kind of physical base, at least they practiced a lot. And now these kids come in and, they can't do the most basic things. So now you have to kind of regress. So whatever you thought you were going to do that day, you're like, oh shit, I got to.
Here's the system. Here's the program I want to run.
Yeah. Instead of starting at A, you thought you could start at M.
Yeah.
And you're like,
And
okay.
it's the basics of moving the body.
So I think that's the big thing. I had to learn that, and I still learn it every day.
Yeah. The simplicity of what everybody in season or off season can squat on Monday. What if we got a wrestling match on Monday? Great. What if we play basketball on Tuesday? Perfect. That's fine.
You're going to be
It's
okay.
fine.
No, but the squat's going to differ, right? Because some kids can't even body weight squat.
Right.
Or that's where they got to start, right?
Right. So but eventually when it all comes up to it, we squat on Mondays, we bench on Wednesdays, and we trap bar deadlift on Fridays. Well, football plays on Fridays. That's fine. They don't have to do, push-ups and pull-ups after they deadlift. They can do curls and push-downs in neck work.
Now, how many of them can't even do a trap bar deadlift, though? Their back's so jacked up and they're not mobile enough, and it's just a complete train wreck.
It wasn't horrible, but there was some all right,
So then how do you regress that?
if they can't do, if the girls couldn't do 65, because we have 10-pound bumpers, if you can't do 65 right, you dumbbell squat on trap bar day until you have some semblance of, the ability to keep your body in the right position.
No, when you say dumbbell squat, you're talking like a trap bar or like a goblet squat?
Goblet
Yeah.
squat.
Okay.
Yeah. But I really didn't have trouble with the trap bar. I had a little bit of trouble with the squat, but not as much as I honestly expected.
What about the
with
bench,
high
though?
school
Because
kids.
you're assuming they can bench a 45-pound bar unless you have lighter bars.
Yeah, we got some kids still doing push-ups.
Okay, so they start there.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to be able to do, what is it? I think the girls, I went through, and I had my numbers originally. I think it was the girls had to do 5 push-ups, guys had to do 10, and then I tested a bunch of them along the way, and I think the girls was pushed up to, they got to do a minimum. Based on the numbers I got, the girls got pushed up to 7, and I think the guys got pushed to 12 or something. I have to look and see exactly what it is. That is going to get passed down to the 7th graders and 8th graders. Either next semester if I get it organized in time, or that's how it'll start in the summertime. And then they've got to do this to then move to the next one, which is very simply, it's like you got to squat. Guys got to squat a 100-pound dumbbell for 25, because that's a 25 and a 2.5 on the bar. It's not that impressive, right?
No, but they're not even close to that.
Right, and then the girls have to do a 70.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you can do that, now I have some, and there's other things. You got to be able to do X number of sit-ups in a minute and so on. And if you can do these things, I feel confident enough that I can now put a bar on your back. And if you can do that dumbbell squat, I'm confident that you can work with the trap bar.
How do you deal with the
stability.
mindset of the kid that can't do those push-ups, though? Because every time they try to do it, they're being reinforced that they suck. I mean, just put it bluntly.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I probably have to get better at this is, like, you have to start somewhere. Like, they all know what I lifted. They've all YouTubed.
I know that, but
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
seeing everybody else doing what
Right.
they're benching and all that, and they're still doing push-ups after 3 months.
You have to make the decision that it's important to you. If you're really embarrassed, like, you have to do something about it. You don't get
No,
to.
but at the same time, you got to find a way to keep them encouraged and working.
Yes.
you know, as the coach.
Yes.
Right? Because you can't, as Jim was saying, you can't like, you know, motherfuck them to be able to get better. You got to
Right.
find something.
Yes.
To keep
And that's
them,
a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's an absolute challenge.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just, you just,
I think the answer is there's got to be some responsibility put on the kid. As an example, when we do our gymnastic stuff, we do that at the junior high level. My wife says, if you are embarrassed about this, there's plenty of things, like we teach you how to do this. There's plenty of YouTube things out there too. I know you all spend your ass on the computer, so why don't you go and do it on your own? Like, you have to take some responsibility for your actions and stuff. And I've had one of my favorite all-time kids couldn't do a cartwheel, Dave. And when he did it, dude, his body ended up in spaces I've never seen. It was.
I've seen a few of those. You're like, geez, how did you not tear something?
I mean, it got so bad. I'm like, dude, you can't do these anymore. Like, you're gonna dislocate something on your body. And 2 weeks later, he comes in. He's like, Coach, can I try? I'm like, oh, all right. And it was like a ballerina. He's 300 some odd pounds. And I was like, what'd you do? He's like, I just practiced every day.
It's amazing how that works, right?
So, you know, the issue is, I think a lot of times we take a lot of that stuff on, and the kids have to take some of it on too. And the parents do a little bit too. And there's no getting around. There's no hack to getting good at some of this stuff. You're just going to have to do more on your own. And
care.
and
It's got to
care
be
about
important
it,
too.
yeah.
You know,
And
if
I've
you
seen-
really want to get
yeah.
on the bench bar, maybe you need to do more ab work so you can hold yourself in a plank to do push-ups the right way. You know, like maybe you need to do push-ups, bottom-up push-ups.
Well, that's how Juliet's the queen
and
at getting
push
kids
from
to do
the
push-ups.
floor as
Yeah.
opposed to starting up top.
Yep.
Because what do? You get halfway down and you stop.
Yeah.
Well, start here. I can only do 2. Great. Do 45 sets of 2.
Is that how she does it?
Yeah, well, she always starts from the bottom up, and then she puts the kids in the perfect position. She's got like a checklist.
Yeah.
Hands, grip, you know, and she's got a whole thing, butt clenched, toes tight. 1, 2, and go. And then it's so much easier to push up from the bottom, even though technically it, you know, shouldn't be. But that puts the kids in the perfect position every time. And it's funny because the more that we do this stuff, like when she does her push-ups, we have mats, and every kid's hands has to be perfect on the line going down the weight room. So everything is everything's symmetrical, everything, and it's not just about making it look good. It's about doing the little things right, putting your hands on the line, stuff like that. So, but she's much better at that stuff than I am, and that's why she's much more patient about that stuff. But the bottom line is, I think the kids have to accept some responsibility. I can't do everything. I can't have, and it's, you know, a lot of people, I motivate my athletes in a different way than I think a lot of people think about it. I'm not rah-rah on them to death. You try to set a good example. You try to be positive. But I can't want it more than you. And I'm not expecting you to be, you know, wanting to go play in the NFL and do anything possible. But you got to give me something. Because if not, like, I can't do it for you. And as I tell the kids all the time, this is your team. I've already played. I don't need this. Like, this is not part of my legacy, so to speak, my personal legacy. This is your chance to do something. So, you know, you have to take some responsibility.
The thing that I've noticed
The
too,
hard thing is, like, you want those kids to succeed, and it's like, at some point, you just, like, it's got to be on you, buddy. Like, I can do all the push-ups in the world. It's not going to make you any better. And,
I think most of the kids want that responsibility too. I think they're aware enough to realize that society's being way too friggin' soft on them. And they are capable of these things. They've never been forced to suffer, to truly like fail and then work through it. Like, oh, I can't do push-ups. Can I try the bar? No. But in the other class, it's like, yeah, it's okay. We can move on to this or something like that. You know, like, no, I tell the kids, the standard is the worst you can be before you get yelled at. So if you have to run a conditioning test and you've got to run it in 10 seconds and you cross the line in 10 seconds, that's the worst you can be before you get in trouble. It's not good. It's the worst that's what a standard is to me.
Yeah.
So like you have to do it sounds horrible, but like 7 push-ups for a girl and 12, I think it is for a guy. Like that's the worst you can be before you don't get to use the bar. Like, so if we set that floor higher, then our ceiling can go higher. But standards are there for a reason. It doesn't mean you suck. You're just not there yet. Are you willing to take responsibility for it? And what I've found, especially with the high school kids, is if you give them responsibility, they want it. They're going to roll their eyes and make stupid faces at you. But they really do want it. They want to understand what's expected and where, if this is the lane they can operate in, they want to know that. And they want these to be very clearly defined, no matter how hard they push back and, again, roll their eyes and all that stupid stuff, stupid things they say under their breath. They want to know. So if you set it for them, they'll reach it. If you set it here, they reach it. If you set it here, they reach it. It's just, they're the same as we were. Maybe we were allowed to be held to different standards at that age, treated differently maybe, but they still want that, and they're capable. They're way tougher than adults. Some adults give them credit for. They can handle a lot, I think. You know, I don't think they're weak. I think they've been allowed to be, but they're not. You know, way stronger than they're given credit for. At least that's what I've seen. So, again, I call it women's basketball, men's basketball. Technically, it's boys and girls. Well, now what's next for you is the real world. You know, if you're a senior next year, you're an adult potentially. Like, why are we not treating them that way now? Why are we not preparing them for what the real world's going to have to offer? Because it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. And how long are you going to wait to teach them? Because if you throw them out there and they're not used to trying and not used to failing and they're not used to it, and then you get out and let's say you go to college and you're a college professor, they don't care. Liberal as they are, they don't care. You're just a number. You're a social security number on a piece of paper.
You're tax cattle.
Yeah.
That's what I call the American
like,
public.
they don't care. You know, so you got to learn how to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so proud. I always tell the kids, nobody cares about your feelings. Nobody cares. And I hear them saying it every now and then. I'm like, yeah. they're learning. They're learning. You know, they don't quite not all of them quite understand it yet, because there's more to it than nobody cares. But very simply, no one cares. Oh, I had a bad day. No one cares. How come you skipped 7 a.m. lifting? Well, I was tired. I had schoolwork to do. Responsibility doesn't care about what time you went to bed. You know, obligations don't care. What about when you have kids? Oh, I don't feel like being a dad or a mom today. What?
Yeah, you say that to a 15-year-old.
Right, but they don't even think.
Yeah.
They just think, well, I'm tired. Well, so what?
Yeah.
I didn't sleep last night either. I still woke my happy ass up at 4 and I lifted this morning.
I'm still drunk.
Yeah. You know, and it's like they responsibility and obligation.
You try doing this job drunk and high.
Doesn't care
3
about
times.
Yeah. Doesn't care about your feelings. You know?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
You know, so, but I just think they're tougher than they're given credit for.
Okay.
So
let me go through here and see if there's any more whack ones. Most annoying catchphrase you've heard?
all of them.
All of them?
I don't know. I mean,
I
there's
can't
some.
think of any either.
I don't know.
Most useless invention of all time?
Smith machine.
No,
Actually, it's pretty good because you can lean on it. You can put your sweatshirt
no,
and
it's
towel
great.
on it.
It's great for inverted rows.
Yeah.
You know, you can ride and bring it up. It's an expensive inverted row machine.
In back when I could do it, I could use it as a chiropractic care
Yeah.
for my back. Nothing pops anymore.
Yeah.
The foam roller, I can't even pop on a foam roller anymore.
Last show you've binged watched?
Terminalist.
Yeah, I would say.
Although I don't binge watch anything. I watch like one episode a night and then I'm ready to sleep.
Terminalist. I did Yellowstone. I love that show. Those are probably the last 2. I haven't gotten regular TV yet. I still have internet TV. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I don't want to.
With Yellowstone, have you watched 1883?
I bought the DVDs because I didn't want to get Paramount Plus internet TV.
They fucking make DVDs.
They did,
still?
$24. Yeah.
I still buy stuff on CD and I still buy DVDs.
They still sell DVDs.
You want to know why? Because when streaming goes to shit.
Yep. I want a hard copy.
I just want a hard copy. Yeah. And then during the pandemic, when all that shit was slow, we had all the.
Yeah.
I had all the tons of TV shows and movies ready.
I didn't even know they sold DVDs.
They're Blu-rays now.
They're Blu-rays.
Yeah. But that's what they're called. So I have 1883. That'll be one that I'll settle in and bang out. Because I love that story, that the Yellowstones. That's a great. Mm-hmm. Beth Dutton is she's one of my favorites. Jack Bauer, Ragnar from Vikings, Ron Swanson, and Beth Dutton are like my favorite TV characters of all time. I love them. Huh?
That's a hell of a list.
Right? Solid, right? She's an awesome character. And my mom can't stand Kevin Costner. She's like, it's the best role ever. He's unbelievable. He's awesome. All right.
It's like I watched the show Goliath, and I don't like Billy Bob Thornton, and he knocked it out of the park, man. Holy shit, is that a good? I think I've only seen 2 seasons, but it's a testament to
Terminal List was good though.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Worst gym location you've ever been in?
Is that worst gym? Maybe.
Yeah, worst gym location you've ever been to. Oh. Can be the area or shit around it.
I don't know.
I don't either, because what some people would consider worst, I'd say that was the best place of all time. I did do a seminar.
I'll talk about this off camera. I don't want to. I've been when I would fly out to Texas, I'd have to train in a commercial gym every Sunday morning, and boy, bars are horrible.
No, it's
weights
hard.
are horrible.
It's hard.
And I changed my training so I would only press overhead there because I'm not handling a ton of weight that bar whips. I didn't want to lay on a bench. And I'm like, well, they got a dip bar and a chin bar. I can just do that. Like, that's literally all I did there. I couldn't do anything else. I think, a lot of commercial gyms have gotten a lot better, especially in the last 15 years. But my God, I don't know how people do that on a regular basis.
No, it's hard. It's hard.
It's,
I would rather train in a hotel.
Yep.
Universal machine room.
Yep.
And then most commercial gyms I've been to. 100% %.
Yep.
Because at least there I know I'm just going to do machine shit. It's just going to be reps. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get out. It's not like I go someplace, then you expect certain things.
Yes.
Then you're like, this sucks.
I'm glad, like, I look back at my life, and I've trained in a commercial gym for 2 months when I got back from the academy, and then about 6 months at Arizona, and that was it. Everything's been college, garage, or like West Side or something like this. So I'm, oh my God, no thank you. But whatever. I'm sure people love it too. I know people.
No, I'm sure they do. I'm sure, obviously they do, because there's tons of people whenever I go into things.
I know.
And then it's just, that's why a lot of times if I go out of town, I just don't train.
No, I don't. I'd rather, when I was in Florida last spring break, I just brought my weight vest and walked up, and there's like 25 floors. I just walked up and down the floors for an hour, 2 hours or whatever it was. That sounds like, it's fine with me. Don't have to. I don't want to pay $25 to use a curl machine. It's like, it's got great lat stuff. I'm like,
Exactly.
So does it a pull-up bar?
Yeah. There was, the stupidest. I can't see for shit. There was a good one on there. All right. The stupidest thing you've ever seen somebody, how can I frame this? The stupidest thing that you've ever seen that actually worked very well.
we need to prep before we do this.
Yeah.
So something that we'd look at first and be like, oh, that's stupid. But then you're like, oh, now wait a minute.
So this is the problem with this thing is I've seen some really dumb shit done by amazing athletes, and they're not amazing athletes because they did the dumb shit. They were able to withstand the stupidity because they're amazing athletes.
The first thing that pops in my head is like the James Harrison pushing 9 billion pounds on a prower. Every kid in the world wanted to do that. It's like, you heavyweight, James Harrison.
Yeah.
Well, when
It's
I
not good.
when I
He's
was
just amazing.
yeah, at Arizona,
He's
we
better
had
than
a really good track team because of the weather. So we had like our distance runners were from Kenya, our throwers from like Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and those guys lit with form that you couldn't believe. And I think that's part of like being a thrower. It's just what you can tolerate, and if your body can handle it, like we know we can handle the training. But I saw some of the worst looking lifts I've ever seen in my life, and these guys were made. They were so explosive, Dave, and so strong, and so just. I saw a guy, a javelin thrower, just do human flags on the rack as a joke, and you're like, you know, I'm talking about like the size.
Yeah,
Like he shouldn't be able to do that at that size, and you know, it's just like someone bet him. He's like, I don't know, like what do? You just kind of, and he did it, and I was like, oh my god. So I think most of the time when you see dumb shit, I don't think that's why they got good. So, I mean, Jesus, did I do some dumb shit back in the day?
I think we all do.
That's right.
You know, and
I just don't know if they, contributed anything. I saw something from an elite hurdler the other day, a trap bar deadlift that I'd have to show you because I couldn't, in words, describe what he did. And I think it's silly, but I'm like, well, he's world class. So what am I gonna like? Who am I gonna? Why would I say anything about that? So yeah, I don't. That's the best athletes can do the dumbest stuff.
yeah, well, a lot of times what we see online too is just a snapshot of something
Yes.
that there happened very rarely. You know, so you'll see that James Harrison thing. Maybe he does it all the time. Maybe he doesn't. Fuck, maybe he just did it for one Instagram video. Who knows?
Yep.
You know, unless you're that person,
Yeah, when he's
you
got
don't know.
135 on the bar and he's pressing
Yeah.
the barbell, it's like, geez, that's freaking
That's
strong.
not an every Tuesday thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's like, I'm going to have fun. Seemingly, I'm going to have fun today. Let's see what I can do. And someone videoed it. And
Yep.
like,
Yeah. Somebody asked
that
about-
everybody wants to do that. It's like, you're not James Harrison.
Yeah.
There's one of them.
Somebody asked about your YouTube because you talked about it last time.
Yeah, I've just been dragging my ass on that. It's just what a. I'm still making videos and stuff. I just, I'm like the worst person because if I don't want to do something, I'm just not going to do it, and I just don't feel like doing it. But once I get a hair up my ass, it's all going to be done. It's I don't know. Like I watch as like I've said this before, but I've watched like videos in prep because I didn't know what was out there, and my God, the video's 10 minutes. They don't even get to the point until like 7 minutes in the video. It drove me nuts. I won't even watch it. I just turned the video off. So that was my goal. Like, listen, I just want, here's the question, here's the answer, here's the conclusion. I'll see you later. And that's the whole goal. It's just, I don't know if they do that because they need the videos to be a certain length or if that's just what people are accustomed to, but it drives me nuts when I see this stuff.
4 minutes of click this button, hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, they keep on explaining the situation over and over again. Like, we get it. Your SI joint hurts. How do we fix it? Like, just tell me that. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm such a dinosaur. I hate it. I really do. And you talk about like the future of the strength and conditioning industry. That's how it goes. Like, there's the new guys. They become really good. Then they become the dinosaurs. No one likes them. Then they get rediscovered 25 years after they died. You know, it's just that same cycle over and over again. So, I mean, I read George Hackenschmidt's book, which was like published in like 1918. Like, you're like, eat good food, use a full range of motion.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's
like
like-
unbelievable.
Make sure you have good cardiovascular shape, take showers. It's just like, all right. I don't know. It's crazy when I get, like a 28-year-old strength coach, like, I grew up reading all your stuff. And I'm like, grew up.
No, no,
I haven't grown up yet.
Yeah. Don't even start thinking about that shit.
And
'cause
so, but it's, I don't know. It's the circle of life just continues, so everything's going to be, with that stuff is going to be fine. So,
and how would people go about finding you because you're not anywhere?
Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm in Arkansas. I need to. Maybe I need to post a little bit more. I took all the social media off my phone. It was one of the best things ever.
Yeah. When did you do that?
About 2 years ago. I'm like, I'm not mad about anything. I don't know what's going on. It's awesome. I can focus on paying my bills, doing my job, but I don't know.
Would you, with the profession that you're in, though, do you see that as an asset or a liability?
That's an asset for you, Rhodes.
It's probably, it probably is an asset. To not have it, you mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
to not have
probably,
it.
because you never know what someone's going to look at and be like, oh my God, he said a bad word. It's like, yeah, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
You know, like that's something like one of the hardest things that I have to do is not swear at school. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so hard.
I don't have that problem.
You know, because
It's not hard for me.
If the kid goes home and,
I just
mom
swear.
and dad don't like it because we're in the Bible Belt, it's like, oh no, like you've you know, it's like so that's one of the hardest things. So, but it's probably an asset not to.
And it brings up
have
an
it
interesting
in it.
conversation, though, because if we're looking at coaches that are coming up through the pipe, you know, the newer ones coming in, you know, they're going to think that they have to have that or they'll never get hired. Or meanwhile, you weren't hired off your social media presence.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
hold
social
on.
media, if you will. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll chime
I
in.
think like being involved with Elite was absolutely got me my internship at Yale. It absolutely got me my first job. So I don't know if that's social media. In a way, it is. Maybe back then, 10 years ago, it was in a way. I don't
Kind
know.
of, maybe.
You know, and so that absolutely got me into the position where I am now.
Yeah.
So I think it benefited me as a younger in my 30s,
Yeah.
college coach. But now in my late 40s, it's like, I'm not going to video the kids because they're high school kids. I'm not going to put that on the internet. And I don't want some moron being like, wow, they don't squat right. It's like, well,
The kids don't deserve that criticism.
yeah. And it's so like,
So you can get some likes.
yeah, I'm not going to throw that out there. I don't mind writing about it. You know, here's the program. Go ahead and it's a cookie cutter, right? To you, the reader, it's a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put myself in that situation that maybe have to defend it. Or again, the kids.
Well, it just becomes another thing you have to manage, too.
Yes.
And if it's something you have to manage, is it going to actually help or hurt?
Right.
You know, if it has no positive.
Like writing about what I do helps. Because
Yes.
it forces me to put what we did on paper, read it, look at it. It's a chance to.
But you don't have to publish that.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's a chance to which is what all my programs are, why I keep them all.
Yeah.
Like here's the fall. I have everything. The fall. I have all the numbers. I have all their training maxes. So it's all clipped together. So I can literally go back first semester, second semester, second year, first semester,
Yeah.
summer, whatever. But it helps to write it down and think
No, I
through
think that's
it and-
critical. I mean, I write every day, but I don't post.
Right.
You know, I don't post the shit that I write. I write just to process.
Yeah. So, but I don't think you know, maybe I'd be more well known if I was on.
But it's not going to
Twitter
help
and
you train your high school kid. You see what I'm saying?
Well, the
Right.
The
So
thing I think it's when we did that Ohio State sports seminar. I don't remember what it was called. You guys hosted it. It was at Ohio State. It was my first real eye opener between what I called the chasm between coaching, like real coaching, and internet coaching. And I realized how far apart they really are. That doesn't mean one's better than the other. It just means that working with college, high school, pro athletes is vastly different than doing online training and posting like that. So if your goal is to do something in the coaching realm, you should probably still have some kind of social media, but just be wary of what you put on there. But I don't think that's relevant to you really getting hired because they're going to be asking the people you work with and the coaches and stuff like that. So I think you're really asking you have two very different, even though they're doing the same basic thing, two very different professions. You have a guy on social media whose job is to,
social media.
And then you have guys who are really coaching. So I think that there is a big discrepancy there. I just remember listening to the two of the best coaches I've ever known have zero social media presence. And it kills me because I can't remember everything that I've learned from them and all this little stuff. And it's like they still massive work. They still get tons of work, from on all different levels. So but they've also been in the business for a while. And, it's like Buddy let his CSCS run out. And he's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But you can't do that at that age. But maybe that's part of the deal. You pay a few dues with social media, just make sure you have some kind of presence. And then over time, you just let it go.
Or maybe it's just networking, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't network, as old school, right? Then the only way you're going to be able to network, I suppose, is going to be social media.
Yeah. But I'm saying if you're in that industry, it's not going to be important because all that networking is done face to face and by who you know and what you know and all that good stuff.
Like for me now, I've already spoken with a couple ADs at local high schools about what we're doing and how we're trying to do it. So that'll be my thing. It's like, hey, you want to come talk to our strength coach? Sure. I get to talk about me and
my favorite topic.
Yeah, the things that I really love training kids. Like, I'll go talk to anybody about that. And like you said, I'm going to sit down with a guy and we're going to shoot the breeze like this. That's awesome. You can get way more across that way than typing something.
Yeah.
Here's the program I did. So what? Well, did it look like that 4 weeks later?
Yeah.
That's how it started.
I think that,
But
the interesting thing about this, because we work with James, my wife and I, and everyone wants us to show what we've done with James and all this other stuff. And as an example, like when do you start barbell squatting him? I'm just giving you an example because we started, he's been doing stuff since he's been like 4 or 5 years old. But anyway, when we started what you'd call effectively really training him, we put a tiny, like a 15-pound bar on his back and it just didn't look good. Now he could squat a 25-pound dumbbell fine. The point I'm trying to make is like, well, when do you barbell squat? I'm like, that's why you're a coach. You have to know.
Figure it out.
And that's what you can't put on paper. And that's what I don't think people quite understand. Like how do you know when to load the bar a little heavier? Well, you're a coach. You have to look and say, listen, he's not ready yet. And that's where I think people want just like a black and white program. It doesn't work like that. You have to be good too.
So you got to be. Go ahead.
It's not as black and white as, and I wish it was. I wish I could sell you everything that we've done, but you still have to know the ins and outs. As an example, once we got up to, I don't know, I'm just going to make up this weight, 70 pounds for James on the deadlift, his back just couldn't hold it. So we spent like 4 months doing the same basic weight over and over again, just building up that confidence. And then, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, it was everything just dialed in. So we just took advantage of it, went up to like 90 pounds for 8 reps. And I was like, but how am I supposed to put that into, like,
you can't.
You can't. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, man, I could give you all this stuff and I'm trying to help you out, but you got to kind of know. And that's one of the, just with like the 5-through-1 program, when we, how we do stuff at the high school, on the form, I'm like, this is what I'm looking for in each and every set. It doesn't have to be what you look for, but we have like guidelines, so now we know when the kids can increase their weight, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to make that decision. And but training kids is so complicated because one kid might be able to do 10 pull-ups, and he's like a stork when he squats. So you have to find ways around that, and you have to have the tools too. It helps. Like the prowler is massive. The prowler's easy to do. Running up and down a hill is massive. But like we live in Ohio, we just happen to have some hills here. Because they're man-made bumps. Like the reservoir over in Springfield is one of the best sprint hills I've ever seen. There's one in Choctaw where you live. I don't know. Kids always go there. I've never been there. I get lost in that place. It doesn't matter. But I just think that with a lot of that kid training stuff, it's so much. You have to be a better coach than I think people realize. So, and then you just coach what you know. And I always, like, if you're just a body weight guy, like that's like your massive thing, then that's what you should coach. Don't be deadlifting these kids if you don't know what you're doing. And it's fine. The kids are going to be better off. Way better off if all you did was, lunges and body weight squats and, tuck jumps and stuff like that. Their kids are still going to be better than they were. So, but yeah.
I think this piggybacks on Jim's thing. It's like, you got to be a type, and I got this from Juliet. You got to be a type A. You have to understand where you want to get to, where you are, and then create a path. But along the way, it's not straight. You're going to go left, you're going to go right, you're going to go backwards. And that's where the type B sort of mentality of like, when do we move James up? I don't know. When I see it, I'll know. But it's, okay, I want to do it in 4 weeks. Well, if they're not ready in 4 weeks, now you're off your plan. The goal is still in sight.
Yeah.
You just have to have that ability to be like, okay, now like we're going to go this way for a little bit, or we're just going to stay here for a little bit and hammer away. And then one day James showed what was right.
Yeah.
And so now they're back on. And so I think it's,
But that's fucking everything in life, though.
There you
right.
go, Dave.
And it's not black and white. It's like wicked gray.
No,
you know?
there's
Yeah.
uncertainty in everything. I
Right,
mean, you
yeah.
can put, fucking 2 decades into trying to accomplish a goal and still not get it.
Yep.
There's no guarantee, no matter how hard
Yep.
you fucking work.
Yep.
And there's always going to be those off roads and shit like that.
Here's the thing, though. I don't
that's
know where
hard
I
to
learned
think
this
about.
from. Is
but you gotta.
You have to though.
in your life, let's say a young man doesn't know where he's going, and I just picture someone values and actions that you really admire and you'd love to see in yourself. Okay, let's just say let's just pretend we'll just do black and white. Wakes up at 5 a.m, works out, reads a book, calls his mom, whatever. All these things. Now, 20 years, maybe he's not where he needs to be, but holy shit, he's going to be a lot better off than he was before.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is everyone sees the goal, and I understand that, but they have to put in place, like the only other option is being shitty. So let's go ahead and look at things that I believe in, and I think is that I hold dear and true to myself, because the only other option is horribleness.
Yeah.
And I think that really says something. So you may not get to where you're going, but man, you're going to be way better off than you were. And go ahead and dedicate yourself to those things. I think you're going to be way better. And I am a constant struggle with that every day. Like I say, like these are the things I need to do. And I know I need to do them. And sometimes I don't. And it just, it doesn't, like, I don't beat myself up. I'm too old for that. But I recognize, when things don't go well, I'm like, well, that's me. That's all me. So, but I think understanding as just a human being, to give yourself a model to aspire to, whatever that would be. And usually, it's pretty high. At least most people, I think, would be pretty high. And then do those things. And I think you're going to get way better off than you'll ever be. And even that you might not reach your goal, it's going to be something even better.
Well, with that, you take pride in effort.
Yes.
Nobody ever takes pride in doing nothing.
No.
Right. So
The only people that do are so hard driven that it's like right now my back's fucked up. My whole goal is not to train.
Yeah.
It takes every ounce of my fucking well-being to not beat the shit out of myself. And so my discipline right now is not doing dumb shit.
But that's the effort.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
So
the effort.
even not doing something for a high whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, is you apply those same, yeah. So you're right. No one, you're right. No, like doing nothing is not an option to me. And I don't think it should be, even if you think it is, you're going to still feel like crap.
Well, if you're idle, right? What's that saying? That idle time is like devil time or some shit like that. Grandma saying
Yeah,
shit.
idle time is the devil's hands or something.
Yeah. I mean, if you're idle, then your possibility of being depressed or having anxiety is very fucking high. You're not fucking doing anything.
When you're idle, everything is chaos.
Everything.
If you have at least somewhere to go, at least you're walking in the right direction.
Yes. And if everything's chaos, then you're just going to let the chaos build upon chaos. And the chaos, then all you're doing is swimming in fucking chaos. And most of it was
Self-inflicted.
inflicted.
Yeah.
And
Self-inflicted and self-destructive.
You create a little bit of order with, I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Magically.
Exactly. And
Things-
accountability is a crazy thing where if we all do things that we shouldn't do, but we know it. And it's like, fuck.
But I'd say that's the key, Dave. I don't think a lot of people know it. I think they know it, but they won't internalize it.
Admit it to themselves.
They won't admit it. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest thing is when I look back and see the things I fucked up on, I'm like, A lot of people will put the blame on someone else, but man, it's a hard day to put the blame on you.
But this,
But you know what? Then what that does, Dave, that gives me that gives me hope, because I know I can change it now.
yeah,
When I always like to say, like, I'll give you an example. I say it's not my fault, but it's my responsibility. As an example, when I got hit by that car, my body's fucked up, and I'm like, it wasn't my fault. No, the guy was texting and driving. He was an asshole. But now all this shit that I have is now my responsibility to fix, because if I keep on laying it on that guy, then nothing gets done. So it's not always your fault, but man, that's sure, like,
yeah. But
no
you can
one's-
back it up though and say you decided to get on the motorcycle.
Well, I know,
that
but
day.
the bottom, like, you can't just keep on doing
yeah,
that, because
yeah.
then all of a sudden it goes back to Adam and Eve and like, fuck that bitch for eating the apple. You know, I mean, there's got to be a certain stopping point.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
And then if you're really going to do that, then no one would take any risks. Like, risks are part of life.
True.
And you can minimize a lot of those risks, obviously. But, you know, I just think that kind of served me well my whole life. I lived by that for a long time, and I didn't realize it. And then as I got older, you kind of escape that, because you don't have that same, like when you had football and lifting and like powerlifting, like so driven, and you're always so action oriented in everything. So if something goes wrong at a meet, I'm not blaming the judges. I've got to get something done. At least that's how everyone I know was. Like, if I didn't score a touchdown or something, that was on me. Like, shit, I need to improve this. And I think when you get out of that world, it's easier to point the finger, because I don't know. That's just been my experience, and that's why I think as you get older, you have to find a way to train incredibly hard, even if you're a little fucked up, because I think that still gives I like to say it keeps my teeth sharp, and it still gives me that youthful edge. You know, that anger, like, you know, like Metallica wrote the greatest albums when they're angry.
Yeah.
And as soon as you kind of lose that, you know, things start to go down a little bit. So anyway, that's just.
No, I think it's a constant reminder of accountability though too.
Yep.
You know, because it throws it back. It's hard to explain.
No, it throws it back on you, but the best thing, it gives you the power to change.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, you know you have that in you to make a better life for you, whatever that would be. You know. So as soon as you start assigning blame, then the power's out of your hands.
I think the power grows out of your hands too, because there's things I look back on in my life that I didn't think were my fault, but then you get some distance.
Oh yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's hard, man.
You get some distance, and then it's a hard reality. Like, you know what? Fuck, that was my fault. You know, and I have to learn from that. You know, and if I don't learn from that, then what the fuck did I go through all that for? You see, or
100%,
I mean,
yeah.
you can just stand and say, nope, not my fault. You know, then you don't get better.
Yep.
And you will repeat, you know, the same shit over and over.
Mm-hmm. That's why everyone should get divorced a couple times. Every time anyone gets married, I'm like, dude, it's starter marriage, good to go.
The start, somebody told me.
Make notes.
God, what is
What's
she-
good, what's bad.
Somebody once said, "This is my first ex-husband," or
Yeah.
some shit like that. It was like, "What the fuck did you say?" Yeah, no, this is going to be my first ex-husband. Yeah.
Positive attitude.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll end on that note. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
Nope. Thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for listening, watching. I appreciate it. So
Yeah.
thank you.